United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilmember Stearns?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Wagner? Here. Councilmember Stackliffe?
Here.
Councilmember Ingstrom?
Here.
Mayor Mortar?
I'm here, thank you. Okay, we have the pleasure tonight of hearing a couple of special presentations. The first one being Clean and Safe Mount Shasta by Mr. Glenn Harvey. Come on up, Glenn. And we ask each of you to take no more than 15 minutes. That will go for you as well, Tim, and you are after on the Residential Land Trust. Okay, and Glenn will probably need you to speak into the mic.
Okay, how's that? Roughly work?
That's good.
Okay. Thanks for the opportunity to come. I had planned to come earlier, but technical difficulties stopped me from coming. So thanks very much for your time. Most of what I'm going to say tonight is just to say thank you for the support to the council. But I just wanted to say that the Clean and Safe project that we've been working on is mostly successful thanks to the support that we have from Rod and the Public Works Group, and from Uriel also for financial support, and a lot of behind-the-scenes work from the city staff, which really does a fabulous job. So the fire department and law enforcement, police department are a big help with this too. So I really want to thank everybody for their support. That's the main message that I wanted to get across. I'm going to try to go fast. Please interrupt if anyone has any questions so that I can move you through your meeting as fast as I can. And keep your fingers crossed on this. I hope this works. Because if it doesn't, I may have to step closer to the machine. I don't know if I can get it to work from here or not. Can I take this with me?
There's one closer.
Boy, you have to, it's like scratch your head and stand on your toes and, oh, hey, what do you know, we're going there. Oh, come on. This thing is so frustrating. Well, I was planning to go fast anyway, if the computer will respond. So I'm just going to zip through this as fast as I can. Last year was our first year for the Clean and Safe team, and we had a lot of good success. We just got started last year. It was our first year. We established the way we were going to operate for our field operations, and we had some wonderful partners that I'll be sure to list on here. And it was very successful too, and I'm going to give you some of the statistics before we're done. The team formed as a result of a partnership. The Gateway neighborhood, which is north of the McLeod Railroad tracks from Cross Petroleum up to the Gateway Trailhead, contacted the Forest Service about ongoing complaints that they had about transients crossing the neighborhood property to try to get to the plantations up on Everett Memorial. And so that, combined with the work that the Mount Shasta Trail Association did, where we kept finding abandoned campsites and fire rings, led me to call the Forest Service and see if they were interested in a partnership. And so they contacted the Gateway neighborhood, and that's what kicked it off. And we still use the Forest Service engineering building at the corner of Pine and Alma for all of our meetings. So they've been very, very successful. The real kickoff last spring was for Earth Day. And that was the first project we started on last year, and that was successful, and then we did it again this year also. The main way that we operate is through Facebook, and it's a really cool way of operating. So we have essentially no overhead, no printing costs or anything like that. We work directly through Facebook. We get together every month, and then the law enforcement and the public, anyone that wants to report a problem that needs to be cleaned up, uses GPS. So any cell phone, they can take a GPS screenshot and post it to our Facebook page, and then everyone on the team is notified. and then all we have to do is go out and respond and get it cleaned up. And then for the second year in a row, the city council, I should say the city, thank you very much, is paying our landfill costs, and I'll give you an estimate of what those look like. And then there's a couple of other things that are pretty cool too, and which one is the posting notice, and I'll show you an example of that also. Maybe. Okay, this is just a GPS screenshot from a cell phone. This is what law enforcement uses. It's an application called Avenza, and you'll see in the upper right-hand corner there's a latitude and longitude with a bunch of numbers that you probably can't see. And all I have to do, or anyone else that responds, is to put that into our own cell phone and punch a button, and it'll walk us directly to it no matter where it is. So this is a campsite at the end of Cedar Street. That's very common. It's close to the freeway and pretty easy access to City Park. But then after these are posted, then we can just walk in and do a cleanup. Gosh. Oops. Oh, great. I'm wondering if it'd be easier to go to a PC for these, you know. All the money spent on a nice projector. This is what we call our posting notice. One of the problems that we have is that transients, by their very name, suggest that they are very mobile. And during the day, they're doing the same thing that we are on our leisure time, which is hanging out with our friends. So they congregate, walk into town, go to Yak's or Burger King, do their laundry, anything that they want in town. They're not in their campsites during the day, so when we follow up on them, a lot of times they're not there. So to make sure that we know about them, we put this posting site that the police department filled out. This was developed by Lieutenant Joe Restine, and it's just super. It shows on there, there's a date to fill it out when the site was detected, and then 24 hours later, we assume that anything that's left at the campsite is abandoned, and then we throw it away and take it to the landfill. And the cool thing about it is that, frankly, it scares people, and so they know they've been detected. Transients are very afraid. Everything you can imagine is at risk. They steal from each other. Everything they own is right there. And they do not want to be detected at all. Safety is a real concern for them. And so just this detection alone, leaving them at the campsite, is enough to get people to move on. So it's been enormously successful. And we've had people leave town just because of this, just by putting a piece of paper out. And they don't need to know, by the way, that they're not within the city limits. We don't have any problem putting these up in the national forest. The transients don't say, I'm sorry, you don't have jurisdiction to operate here. So it works very well. Again, while this is changing, we're not opposed to people. People have legal rights. What we're objecting to is the same thing law enforcement faces with other thing, is poor behavior. So we're objecting to behavior. People have rights to be here. Okay, Muriel, this slide's for you. I apologize starting out. I started a file and collected every landfill notice that I have. I get a tiny little microchip receipt from the landfill for our expenses, and I tallied them all last year, and I literally cannot tell you why they just start in August. Most of our season does start in about May or June, but for some reason I can't find the receipts, and I don't know why, because I saved absolutely every single one of them. But you'll see in there, it varies a lot, but August, September, October, I took September, October, and December as our routine months, and then averaged those three and projected it for about a 7-month fiscal year, financial year, and that's based on weather, and came up with an estimate of less than $1,000 a year total for the landfill costs. And what we've been seeing, and you saw last year, we were able to operate in the field until December. So the climate change is giving us longer falls that are nice weather and then cold, wet springs. So we're just getting started on our season. Looks quite a bit better than it did a year ago, by the way. People are really happy with the results of our volunteer cleanup efforts. So I think that's what, in terms of knowing what you're signing up for, $1,000 is a good estimate. And then Rod spends some time every year at Earth Day positioning dump trucks around the city, and he's got a 2-hour call out on a weekend for his labor cost, and then he's got some dump fees, and I estimate that less than about $300. So we're in the $1,000, $1,500, and I hope it's making a pretty good impact on the city and the environment. This is our statistics for 2017. Most of them you can read, but I am going to go over them. That 17 group days, that's a team of people that's invited to go out and work for a day. I'm going to show you some pictures of what our work looks like. And we did 17 individual work days last year. And these numbers are separate, so they do not include each other. So in addition to 17 work days, this doesn't seem to be on at all, but hopefully it's working. We cleaned more than, in addition to those work days, more than 100 individual campsites cleaned up, permanently cleaned up in Mount Shasta. 324 bags, more than 324 bags taken to the landfill, and 11 dump trailers or dump trucks full of trash. These are all separate from each other. And that $1,000 in dump fees, it's about $50 a ton, it's 53 or something like that, is on the order of 20 tons of trash. So it's a huge amount of work. And I think it's very good payback just because all we have is the disposal cost. We don't have any other, we don't have any overhead or anything like that. It's 100% volunteer. So hopefully I can go through the rest of these fairly easy or quickly. These are the supporters, City of Mount Shasta, the county, the sheriff. We have great support from the sheriff. They have thousands of miles to patrol of roads, county roads, but they do respond when they can. When our Mount Shasta South County office is staffed, they respond very well. The Trail Association, Siskiyou Association of Realtors, Brett Waite was the Realtors Association president the year that we started, and so she helped with some of our sponsorship. And then the Forest Service, and Crystal Geyser is our largest private contributor. They gave us $500 for plastic bags and trash pickers and things like that last year. Oh gosh darn it. This thing is really frustrating. These are what campsites look like. This is very typical. The other images will load in a second. You'll see that there's quite a bit of fabric, paper, plastic. People worry about things like syringes, but the actual risk is not at all related to syringes. It's broken glass and metal, the same kind of hazards that we would experience anytime that we go outdoors. I'm sorry, this is loading so slow. But that's what they look like, and then obviously I do have some after pictures, but these are more interesting. I don't know why it's not loading. I'll see what I can do, just go into the next slide. This last part may not work. This is one of the largest campsites. This is up on Everett Memorial Highway, just past the Gateway Trailhead. That really is a collection of about 15 propane cylinders. They had a full bicycle repair shop on site, and the lower right-hand picture after they got posted to leave by the sheriff, that's the stuff they wanted to take with them. And they ended up abandoning that also, and they just moved out. So that was quite a sight. That is a container of Freon, a full container of Freon on the left. It's just disappointing that these pictures didn't turn out better. And then the fun part, I hope this will come up. Boy, for the amount of money we spent on this.
Is this an internet issue or a projector issue?
No, it's just the machine itself.
Yeah, bye-bye projector.
I've told it to move ahead, maybe locked up, I'm not sure. I was hoping to be able to show you some of the volunteers, but I'm just taking too much time with the change. I just wanted to show you what the community response is. It's been very popular, and the one down at the bottom is a cleanup that we did on the Big Canyon Springs cleanup down south of 97, and this is a very common dump site. The whole Castella Loop, the whole the slope coming up from Mott is a classic dumping area, the Mott Airport area, and we had 35 volunteers come out one day for a cleanup. So I just wanted to show that to you, and I think this next one is my last slide, and it's more similar. Oh gosh, I think I'm just going to give up. You know, what am I on? Tim, I'm going to surrender and give this to you. I'm sorry it didn't work better. But anyway, I just wanted to say thanks so much to the City Council. It's not political, it's not religious, it's reasonably cheap, and it's all done by volunteers with 100% overhead, except for the cost that Rod generously helps support us with every year. So thank you very much to the City Council.
Please pass on our thanks, Glenn. What an awesome volunteer effort. I've had a couple people come up to me and tell me about how grouchy they were and about life in general until they started just rolling up their sleeves and cleaning up trash. And there's just people who love to clean up trash. And they feel really good about themselves at the end of a day and feel good about volunteering and, you know, feel better about life in Mount Shasta. So what a great idea. Thank you. Okay, Tim, you're up. Residential land trusts.
I think I need some expert help for somebody who's under 30 or 40.
I see Amy Lanier here. Today's the deadline for the newspaper if you want to take her item out of order. I think that's the last item on the agenda, which is the
We have Reem ahead of her. We could change those.
Pardon?
We have Reem ahead of her. We could change those.
Well,
Yeah, while Tim is fiddling with it, I wonder if it would be appropriate to switch the Thrive Hive item with the Ream Avenue rehab project so that we can let Amy go. Apparently, she's going to present tonight. That's not what the agenda says, but is that what she's doing?
The Thrive Hive is part of the agenda item with off-site.
Can you hear Bruce?
You're not still not hearing me?
I don't think you're on.
You want to talk into the microphone?
Well, we're trying to.
So you have an agenda item tonight that has Thrive Hive on it, along with off-sites. That's one agenda item.
Right.
And then I believe you were mentioning Ream Avenue, totally different agenda item.
No, I know. I'm suggesting swapping the order of them so that Amy can speak. Apparently, she's speaking under the Thrive Hive item.
She is.
Okay, we could swap those two items and let Amy go and hold on to Rod a little longer, but I think we have,
Council can always reorder the agenda.
yes, okay, so that was Tim's suggestion. Tim, are you going to be able to go ahead on your presentation?
I'm about to find out.
Okay, well, why don't we, while we're waiting, well, Tim, you're going to need to listen to this Thrive Hive presentation, aren't you?
I'm familiar with it. You know, what I can do as an alternative is just give you handouts. I don't think they're as pretty as what I have.
Oh, oops. I'm sorry, I was misreading my agenda. Right, it's on page 3. Well, let's hear from Tim, and then I don't see any reason why we couldn't have the Thrive Hive item next, unless there's disagreement from anyone on council. Besides Rich, yeah. We've got Rich and then Thrive Hive. I'm sorry? Okay, we'll do, of course, consent agenda, then we'll have Rich speak on the fuel break project, and then we'll move to item number 12, Thrive Hive. We'll bump that one up right after the fuel break discussion, and then go on, and then go on as usual. Is that okay, everyone? Okay, Tim, you're on.
All right, so what I want to do is discuss tonight community land trust, and as that may apply to the Orchard property, or if the city found some other property to other property. In 2005, the city obtained a community development block grant, technical assistance grant, and had an affordable workforce housing strategy done by Bay Area Economics. Bay Area Economics looked at 10 sites, found the city-owned Orchard property on Ream Avenue with 2.73 acres of developable property to be the most valuable location for undertaking affordable housing, workforce housing project. Bay Area Economics suggested that the city somehow create owner-occupied affordable housing on that site with restricted resale. In other words, it would be income qualified to be able to have housing, to buy housing at that location. And when a person or family decided to sell their house on that location, they would sell it based upon a formula where they get a portion of the appreciation rather than get 100% of the fair market value. That way the house stays permanently affordable. So that was 2005. In 2006, the city was in contact with Rural Community Development Corporation, which recommended the city go ahead with a community land trust on that property, pretty much as Bay Area Economics did. Bay Area Economics proposed a 3-year strategy for development of the orchard property. Number one was to bring the orchard property into city limits. If the property is not inside city limits, the city would not qualify for home funds, which is a HUD program. It would not qualify for CDBG funds to develop that property. Would all have to go through the county. So number one, bring the annex orchard property into the city limits. Number two, through a general plan update process, designate the property as high-density residential. Right now, it's designated as manufacturing.
Can you remind
It
us where
is,
that's
it's
located?
manufacturing?
Can you
Yeah.
remind us where that
Orchard property is located on Ream Avenue, just before you go over the highway, on the south side.
Does it connect all the way to the treehouse? That
It,
Other side.
other side, okay, thank you.
okay.
Yeah.
And also suggested, Bay Area Economics also suggested completing a programmatic EIR in conjunction with other development sites for affordable housing. In years 2 and 3, Bay Area Economics suggested that there be site development, obtain funding, attract affordable housing builder, convey the land for sale or transfer with the resale restrictions, and see the project through to the end. Things got
The way they-
sidelined
Yeah.
between 2006 and 2008. So I think that now may be appropriate time, because we still have a housing crisis going on in Mount Shasta, and perhaps recognize it more so now than before, that we look at this issue again. Last year, Housing California 2017 Annual Conference discussed community land trusts and what they are. Basically, you're looking at a 501c3 nonprofit, with the board being made up of 1/3 residents who are owners of houses, 1/3 community members, and 1/3 other interested persons in the community. The concept is that the city would either sell or gift property to the Community Land Trust, the nonprofit. The Community Land Trust then, with funding that either it obtains or that the city has obtained for building homes, which could be single-family residence, it could be townhouses, could be condominiums, could be owner-occupied, and it can also be residential or rental. The Community Land Trust would own the property, the land, and lease the land, which reduces the cost of building. Recognizing that typically land cost is maybe 25% of your building cost. With a community land trust qualifies for home funding through HUD, also qualifies for CDBG funds.
Even in our town where we're not CDBG qualifiable?
Well, because these homes would be for low and moderate income, specifically, my understanding is that it would qualify because it's a targeted focus.
Got a thumbs up. from
All right,
Muriel.
yeah, thumbs up from Muriel.
Specifics, what the cost to the owner between leasing and buying land?
The cost of, well, if I
Well,
understand,
Maybe that's getting too specific, we can do that offline.
it is less expensive for an owner
So we-
to lease the ground
Mhm.
and buy the house than it would be to buy
Buy it
everything,
all. Okay.
which is one of the advantages. And I did not include example figures in this presentation, just to
fine.
keep it short.
That's fine.
But you have that material available to you.
Okay, thanks.
So that's the concept, is the Community Land Trust basically leases the land, maybe $200 a month or whatever the figure might be. And income qualified persons own the house or the condo or the townhouse, the duplex, whatever it is. And if you look at the next page, you see an example of how that works. Homeowner purchases the house, leases the underlying land. When it comes time to sell, they can either, basically, the Community Land Trust typically has a right of first refusal, or first option to purchase. So the Community Land Trust can buy the house back, or alternatively, they approve some other buyer that is income qualified, so that the property continues to be sold to individuals or families that are in the lower income or middle income groups in perpetuity. The advantage of this, again, is that people who otherwise would not be able to buy homes in Mount Shasta would be able to afford to buy a home. And through this process, they accumulate sufficient equity where when they sell, they may go out and be able to buy a market rate home. So they go from this home to somewhere else with the savings that they've accumulated. As you see, it promotes the position that we as a city have unanimously taken, as a city council unanimously taken, and that is anyone who works in Mount Shasta should be able to afford to live in Mount Shasta. It also avoids the commuter effect. Research shows that when people commute, they tend to be less involved in their communities. So this keeps our citizens involved in the community. It is basically a one-time subsidy rather than ongoing subsidy. The original subsidy is to the Community Land Trust if the city were to either donate the property or sell the property at unattractive terms. Now, I also handed to you an article that the Federal Reserve Bank of Richmond put out in 2002. Gives you a little more information, and you'll see that I used their graphic in that handout. Also, there is Senator Bell, who's in the California State Senate. He and others have a bill that they are currently sponsoring, going through California legislature, to make it more attractive for cities to have community land trust and do this very sort of development. Their bill would basically exempt community land trust from paying property tax on property until the property is developed and sold to owners. So it is a way, if it passes, it would be a way of further helping communities get people into affordable homes. So it's something that was recommended to the city by various consultants back in 2005, 2006 timeframe. The idea of community land trust has become increasingly popular in California as well as elsewhere throughout the United States. I think there's at least 46 states that now have community land trusts, and there's any number of them in California, going from San Diego on up to the Bay Area. Something for us to think about at a future time. Perhaps we want to agendize it. I wanted to present it to you. Any questions?
The orchard property, I'm not familiar. Who owns that property?
The city of Mount Shasta owns the orchard property. The orchard, when we refer to the orchard property, it was given to us as part of the Roseburg property. And the difference between the orchard property and Roseburg, or the landing, two things. They are connected, but the orchard property is on Ream Avenue, and it has sewer and water right up to the property, unlike the landing. So it's much more, it would be much easier to develop.
But it's outside city limits.
It is currently outside city limits, and in 2005, 2006 timeframe, we were going to annex that property. I think it was going to cost the city something like $13,000 to go through the annexation process. We were having financial hard times, and so we deferred it.
Are you aware of any community land trusts that have been approached, that have signaled interest, that, in the north part of the state, anything like that? Have you worked with anyone?
Well, the closest community land trust is probably Northern California Land Trust, Community Land Trust, which I think is in the Bay Area. What is generally recommended is for a community to set up its own community land trust, which actually is pretty easy because the National Community Land Trust Network has boilerplate articles of incorporation, bylaws, and ground leases. And what was recommended is don't reinvent the wheel, just borrow it from Davis or from Berkeley or from the Bay Area or from somewhere else.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Tim?
Just a quick one. Is there any way we can find out where some of these land trust properties are? So through our travels, we could go by and look at them?
Absolutely.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, I'd like to move on now to you, Rich, assuming you're able to do something here with our technology. Okay, I'm sorry, very sorry for the mishaps here.
You want to take any open for public comment before you go to the presentations?
Oh, I guess I'm going to need some help tonight going through the agenda. Gosh. My apologies. Rich, I need to do public comment first.
Okay.
I'd like to welcome anybody who would like to make a public comment about anything that's not on the agenda or in the consent agenda to come up and spend 3 minutes of your time sharing your thoughts. Ken Ryan, would you like to come on up, please?
Well, actually, I was commenting on...
Please talk into the...
Hi, actually, Ken Ryan, Mount Shasta. I was commenting on 10 and 11, but I'll hold for a minute because we haven't got to it. Oh, I do want to second the concept of land trusts. I was on the Land Trust Board, the Northern California Land Trust in the Bay Area for 10 years. And we put it together as a housing land trust in Berkeley, Oakland, and San Francisco, effective, and it's running very well. And when I came to town, I basically said, hey, land trust folks, why aren't you putting housing on places? And they said, well, we haven't thought of that. We're doing ag and open space. So there's a split between, but I do believe that land trust is an excellent thing for you to do with your property in the south. And thought it worked it out correctly, it could provide a lot of what you want in terms of development in this area. And I would be glad to go into it again from the experience of having done it. But do you want to wait on the other two until?
I do, yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Ken. Any other comments from members of the public? Okay, thank you for keeping me honest, folks. I'd like to now go to council and staff comments. So, Bruce, have you anything to share with us as city manager?
Certainly, assuming you can hear me now.
Can you? Okay.
We had a meeting between LTAC, the Friends of the Library, and Mount Shasta Engineering on the question of the work that LTAC and the Friends put into the development of the concept for the library expansion. As you recall, LTAC was concerned that a lot of their work, they felt it might have been dropped by the wayside, was not communicated properly to the consultant. So on the 18th, we held a meeting with the engineer and engineering staff. And Dennis Johnson made the presentation, went through the process, explained that how they came to certain conclusions, what they were based on, and why the building ended up shaped the way it is. And those preliminary drawings allowed the engineers to ask questions and get input from both LTAC and the designer. So basically, I thought the meeting went quite well. It facilitated some needed communication. And so now we're into the design phase. They're doing the land test, the soils testing. Additionally, Councilmember Stearns, Mayor Pro Tem Wagner, and I attended a meeting, luncheon meeting with representatives of the other two cities on the CTC contract, and we gave direction through Councilmember Stearns to CTC, and they're scheduled to make a presentation to the City Council on your June 11th meeting. The other item that I'd like to point out to you is that some time ago staff brought before the council the idea that we were going to apply for grants for hopefully 2 senior fellows under the AmeriCorps program. The intent of this was to bring people in that are well-educated, trained in a specialty field related to public works. So if we received the grant and the applications, we would be able to actually start working on the master infrastructure analysis that staff had brought to council previously, and pointed out that we felt was quite important for the council to start to identify, analyze existing infrastructure with the intent to come with the master infrastructure repair program. That we've now been granted those 2 positions. They'll start roughly September. Muriel's put that in the budget you'll be looking at in June. Those are 2 very, very important positions. So think thoroughly about them. Give them due consideration in the budget, because we do need to get, that program is very important to the city. Additionally, some of you may know the story, but I get emails from the league all the time. And some upcoming events I think the council should be aware of. June 27th to the 28th is the mayor and council members executive forum. That will be held in Monterey. That's open to all council members. Then the September 12th will be the leadership reception in Long Beach, California. They also have the mayor's and councilors advanced leadership workshop in Monterey for July 19th and August 19th. And they have the annual conference, which is in Sacramento in September. So if any of you are interested in attending those meetings, I'll post these dates on a memo to all council members so you'll have them. The other item related to the league meetings that will be coming up is we will be bringing forth a resolution identifying voting members of the council and alternates that can participate in voting at the league meeting in September. So that will be coming to you probably the last meeting in June. And that's all I have for tonight.
Thank you. Questions for Bruce? Okay, thank you very much. Any other staff comments? Apparently not. Council comments? Paul, have you any? Nothing. John? Barbara? Tim? I have just one, and that is that today was apparently the last day to sign up for the Mayor Council Executive Forum in Monterey. I had not planned to go until last week when I was encouraged to go in anticipation of the item that I'm facilitating at the September meeting on creating a rural working group. So I did sign up for it today and do plan to go to it. Yeah. That was my only comment today. Okay, consent agenda. I think I'm moving right along here, and then following that, we'll have you, Rich, I promise. And then you, Amy. Okay. The city manager recommends approval of the following consent agenda items. All resolutions and ordinances.
Madam Mayor, any reason that we can't take Rich and Amy's items before consent agenda?
No, but let's just get it behind us. I'd prefer to get it behind us. Or added hereto shall be introduced or adopted by title only, and the full reading thereof is hereby waived. A, approval of minutes, May 14th, 2018, regular city council meeting. B, acceptance of Brown Act committee minutes, Downtown Enhancement Advisory Committee, regular meeting, March 28th, 2018. C, approval of disbursements, accounts payable 510, total gross payroll and taxes for the period ending 5/6/18. D, monthly financial and investment report. E, second reading of ordinance 18-02, the special events ordinance. F, second reading of ordinance number 18-03, the sign ordinance. And G, State Transportation Improvement Plan Program, STIP, authorizing resolution CCR 18-24. Is there a motion for approval?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda items A through G as just read.
I'll second that, including second reading CCO 18-2 and CCO 18-3 by title only, and CCR 18-24 by title only.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you, unanimous. Okay, Rich, now we'll hear your fuel break project. Thank you for your patience.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes, okay. First, thank you for your time and the opportunity to speak to you this evening. I'm going to start, I guess, with a little bit of background. My name is Rich Klug. I'm a Resource Planning Manager of LandVest, Inc. We're a land management company hired by Shasta Cascade Timberlands, who is the new owner of the former Roseburg Timber Holdings. Roseburg sold all their California timberlands purchased by an outfit called New Forest, who formed Shasta Cascade Timberlands, who is the timber holding entity now. So as an employee at LandVest, I help manage the LandVest hired all the old Roseburg employees that were managing the lands, so we have had a very seamless transition over. Basically, the name of the companies have changed, but the folks on the ground are the same. So, having said that, the new owners were interested at looking at all the different ways to manage the property. There was the way that it's been managed and will continue to be managed at least into the short term. And they're also looking at alternative forms of income, whether that be carbon, conservation, non-forest products, whatever that may be. So this was one of the things they were looking at. We've been asked to help develop a proposal. The first round of this proposal was approved by CAL FIRE. This is through the California Climate Initiatives Program. It's a two-phase project, basically incorporates a forest health component and a forest legacy component. And so I'll walk you through this. In your packets, I think you have conceptual maps of both of these plans. But I'll start with the forest health component. The idea there is to use existing features where possible, roads and ridgetops, to create a defensible and strategically redundant series of fuel breaks in the I-5 corridor, basically between Highway 89 and the Mott area down to Sweetbriar area, Railroad Park. We intend or hope to put mid-slope fuel breaks along existing roads, 200 feet below the road, 100 feet above the road, and then ridgetop fuel breaks, 150 feet on each side of the top of the ridge, to help protect the lands, both from natural ignitions, lightning strikes coming down into the community of Dunsmuir, and human-caused ignitions leaving the town and the I-5 corridor going up onto the Shasta Cascade timberlands. So that's the basic concept. You can see in your packet, hopefully, the maps that are there. There's about 47 miles of roads and ridge lines that we hope to create fuel breaks on. In addition to that, there'll be infrastructure fuel breaks, 500 feet around critical infrastructure, including Siskiyou County Sheriff's, California Highway Patrol, radio repeaters, local radio and TV stations on Mount Bradley, and equally on the east side on Soda Creek Ridge, repeater sites up there. We're currently talking with CAL FIRE on some prescribed burns in this area. In concept, they think it's a great idea. If you remember, the Bradley fire last fall started down in Dunsmuir and started up towards Mount Bradley. That whole brush field, because it is a brush field, that's an indication that it's had lots of fires in the past. We'll continue to have fire. If we can treat those fuels safely and effectively, we hope to be able to do that through CAL FIRE's veg management program. We'll have to talk with Dunsmuir to see if they want fire that close to the community, but that is one concept we're pursuing. The map in your packet hasn't changed much since I submitted it, so that should be fairly accurate. The purple lines would need to be hand line constructed. There's no existing roads there. Everything else is built off existing roads. The forest legacy component of this project would largely be a 29,000 plus acre conservation easement. The main part of that, at least for the landowner, would be a prohibition on future development and subdivision, so there'd be no housing, shopping centers, anything like that developed in these 29,000 acres. The reality is very little of it is, developable anyway, but we have identified some areas that would be. Probably the biggest thing for the folks in Mount Shasta and Dunsmuir would be, I guess, an alternative form of silviculture in the view shed of both Mount Shasta and Dunsmuir. The current staff has worked pretty hard on our last timber harvest plan called Shasta View, right there above Nay Springs, to visually mitigate our management. We think we've done a pretty good job. This owner is open to doing even more, and so it would be something of a complete uneven age management, again, within the view shed of the I-5 corridor, Mount Shasta and Dunsmuir. That would include Mount Shasta Ski Park and the Pacific to the north and the Pacific Crest Trail to the south. Speaking of the Pacific Crest Trail, the roughly 800 acres, one parcel that we have that the PCT winds through, there's a proposal to deed that over to Castle Crag State Park for public lands. The easement would be an important connectivity corridor, both north and south, east and west, between existing conservation easements, wilderness areas, state parks, and other wildlands. Other things we're currently discussing and hope to implement would be increased riparian buffers. And I'll caveat that in that the science on riparian buffers is changing, and there's more and more acknowledgement that there needs to be management of some sort inside riparian areas. It's been noticed that some of these riparian areas that are overgrown are actually acting as fuel conduits and fire conduits, getting fires into areas that they might not otherwise be, and a loss of primary productivity due to loss of deciduous tree cover and no sunlight reaching the forest floor. So we're hoping to have some sort of an adaptive management with that, but we are proposing increased riparian retention over what the forest practice rules require. There'd be greenhouse gas reductions from avoided fires and additional carbon sequestration, and increased retention and recruitment of important wildlife habitat and elements. So there is a fairly large change in the easement map from what's in your packet. We initially had phased it in 4 phases based on what we thought funding might be. We've been led to believe that there's enough funding to implement the entire 29,000 plus acres in once. So those 4 phases are basically now gone. The entire area is 1 phase. But we have outlined, and I can get this to you, I can show you on the screen where the visual areas are. Basically anything you can see from the Mount Shasta Resort, the Wayside, the ski park, anything in Dunsmuir, I-5, so that whole inner gorge there, Lake Siskiyou, North Shore on Lake Siskiyou, anything you can see from there, that would, at least initially, as proposed, would all be available only for uneven-aged timber management. But there absolutely will still be timber management occurring. The owners, have harvest goals that they want to see. So it is more or less a working forest easement, but with some significant silvicultural constraints thrown in there. So with that, I can answer any questions. Additionally, in your packet is a sample letter of support. We were given this project on a very short time frame. The deadline is June 13th for us to have our stuff into CAL FIRE. I think I mentioned we passed the initial concept stage. They said, yeah, it's a good program. The funding's available. Go ahead and complete the full application packet. So that's the stage we're in now, and local support is a big part of that. So I said, if you have questions, I'm happy to try to answer them.
Questions, anyone? Tim?
Thanks, Rich. Appreciate the presentation. I'm not entirely clear, so let me ask some questions. In terms of the view sheds, I assume this is thinning and not clear cutting, so it's not going to adversely affect the view shed?
That's what our intent is.
Okay.
Yes.
And the red lines that we've got some solid red line and some red lines with dash in them.
So the yellow lines that may look as dashed on the over top of the red is just a different level of road for us. It would be a more permanent road versus the darker red is a temporary road.
Okay.
So everything there, whether it looks red, yellow, or orange, those are all existing roads. The purple is where there would be fuel breaks, shaded fuel breaks constructed that have no current roads.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And do you have a target thinning practice that you do? Is there a target, trees per acreage, whatever?
It's based on basal area. We're hoping to use the CAL FIRE fuel break prescription, which 50 square feet per acre. The number of trees per acre varies based on the diameter, but to be defensible, there can't be much there. So an example, 1 square foot of basal area is one 13-inch diameter tree, but it's kind of a logarithmic scale, so the larger you get in tree diameter, the more basal area you have. So a 26-inch diameter tree is more in the line of 4 to 5 square feet instead of 2, if that makes sense. So it's based on basal area retention. So if we left a lot of small trees, or if we left small trees, there'd be a lot of trees there. If we only left the largest trees, there wouldn't be very many. But we're going to work with CAL FIRE to figure out what they feel comfortable in terms of being able to defend. If a fire is coming up the ridge or up the slope, how much does it need to be cleared for them to be able to put engines in there, get an aerial retardant line down, and for them to feel safe and comfortable making a stand. The other thing that they look for is where do they feel safe starting a backfire in the evenings, so that would be part of it too. So.
Thank you, Rich.
So, Rich, if
so-
I could ask a question,
Certainly.
do you have examples where the company's done this already?
I do not.
Yeah, okay.
I know Sierra Pacific has done some shaded fuel breaks. We have not. We have done this in the Fountain Fire. If you remember back to 1992, we lost 45,000 acres in the Bernie area. And as our young forest started to grow up in that area, there was a lot of desire to protect that investment. And so we put in fuel breaks there, but they would look nothing like these. They were done under an exemption. It's a very young forest, 15, 20 years old. We've not done this yet. Like I said, Sierra Pacific has done it further south. I don't have pictures of those. You can query the CAL FIRE website for those areas. It shows up, and then you can look at them on Google Earth.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Rich. So has the field break planning been done in coordination with the national forest, surrounding the national forest, so that it's all contiguous?
We're in discussions with the Forest Service. We thought initially about doing all the property lines, but operationally that just didn't work. But we've talked with Carolyn Napper on the McLeod Mount Shasta District, and she's aware. We're hoping to get a letter of support from them also. We're tying in with their Highway 89 project in that Mott area. And then further south, we don't really have much that borders Forest Service. It's mainly state park.
Great. So you also mentioned that most of your work will be uneven age management. Does your project area also include areas of clear cut that aren't within the view sheds you mentioned, the sensitive view sheds?
It does.
Yeah.
Or that would still be a silviculture that is available to
Yeah,
use.
okay.
Yes.
And where will the logs be hauled?
Pardon
Do
me?
you know where the logs will be hauled?
Whoever wants to buy them.
Yeah.
There's a biomass component to this. Biomass is basically small diameter, non-merchantable. That material will most likely be chipped and go to the Roseburg biomass facility. If Wheeler Brader and Anderson wanted to bid on it, they certainly could. Same with Bernie Mountain Power over in Bernie. Hall would almost certainly dictate that the biomass goes to weed. All the other forest products that come off of this, our typical customers are Roseburg and Weed timber products in Wairika, Trinity River in Weaverville, the SPI mills in Bernie, Shasta Lake City, Oroville. Who am I missing? Shasta Green out of Bernie. That's pretty much it. Every once in a while, Collins Pine or the one over at K Falls.
Do you know yet what the estimated total? No.
No,
Because
we know. I should have brought it. I know the acres of fuel breaks. Actually, I do have it. It's about 1,600 acres of fuel break.
gosh.
Associated with those 46 miles of road.
Lots. And the time frame?
We're still trying to get a clear answer from CAL FIRE on that. This is, once we get an application in, They've got to go over it. They say, okay, yes, this project's approved. Then we go into negotiations with CAL FIRE, Fish and Game, Water Quality, Shasta Cascade Timberlands, in terms of the very specifics, defining exact boundaries, whether that's a parcel or something we can define on a ridge line. For something like uneven H management, it would be the exact silvicultural treatments. How many oaks do they want per acre, all those kind of things.
Yeah.
So long story short is it's a long process. I believe the funding from this grant cycle has to be spent by the end of 2022, but don't quote me on that. I think that's the number they're talking about. Most likely it wouldn't even be approved and implemented till late 2019, early 2020.
Thank you. Lastly, then, I'm assuming that your coordination with the ranger station here will take care of any impacts timing-wise on the ski park and its operations?
Yeah, we don't anticipate any impacts to the ski park or their operations.
Okay.
So we've got the one section way up on the hill that's adjacent to the ski park. That would be included in the visual mitigations, but we're not proposing any fuel breaks or anything like that up there. So as far as I can anticipate, there would be no impact to the ski park in terms of their operations.
Okay, great, thank you. So, if there are no other questions, could I have a motion to direct the city manager to sign the letter?
Before you do that,
Oh,
Public
public comment. Wow. I think maybe I should just have the pro tem run the meeting tonight. I'm tired, I guess. Are there public comments regarding this item? Okay, seeing none. Is there a motion then?
move
Or direct?
approval of the letter for city manager to submit to California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, you have your letter, Rich. Thank you very much. This will be a really interesting project.
We hope so. And don't hesitate to come to me or the company if you have questions.
You have an open house coming up.
Yes, next Tuesday. So everybody's invited.
Can you tell us the time?
Yeah, we have an open house at our new office, which is south Mount Shasta Boulevard, but right across from Swiss Holiday Lodge, in between the two charter school buildings. It's 3 to 6 next Tuesday, the 5th, I believe. So,
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask a question? Is it too late?
Go ahead.
How many people will you employ and how long will this project take?
right, currently, we have about 15 people employed in the day-to-day operations of the timberlands. That's just the people in our office. We have a small office in Reading also. That doesn't count the contractors we hire to write timber harvest plans, do our botany surveys, do our wildlife surveys. There's a lot of those, and all the loggers that we're employing to harvest our trees. The time frame for this, like I said, we're hoping to get funding by 2020 and have it completed by 2022.
Okay. Unless I'm mistaken, I think we're going next to the Thrive Hive and Offsites marketing items. Bruce, would you like to introduce the subject, please?
Certainly. So this item contains two resolutions. They're addressing the same set of issues. The Offsites company runs a website which brings together development companies that are actively seeking development projects. Allows them to list their projects, list their companies, the type of projects they're looking for. It also allows cities like Mount Shasta to be part of Offsites and list our city on the map, designate areas that we're looking for development. This involvement with Offsites grew out of League of California Cities Conference. Councilmember Stearns attended, along with other members, and he actually stopped by the Offsites booth, struck up a conversation, and they put us into what is called basic op sites. All that is a map of California with a little outline of Mount Shasta and a statement that Mount Shasta is looking for development. To go to the program we're talking about here, this Pro, and this is an interactive process. So when a housing developer is looking for a housing site, they can post this, who they are, what they build, where they're looking. And we see that, we can respond directly to the person in the company that posted the ad. So we don't have second-party communication, we have direct one-to-one communication. We have some experience of this because they gave us a 30-day free trial on the OpSites Pro. So we could do interaction with development companies. I thought the site was quite productive. There's a lot of lost leads. You'll discover a company that says they're looking for development sites. When you contact them, they go, oh, we only mean in Southern California. So you scratch it off your list and move on. But it was very, I thought it was very productive because it established a one-to-one relationship. And whether it generated a company to come and build something right now, it may establish a relationship that we would see future activities. So I felt it was very, very productive. The price that they're asking for a year's service, it's unlimited, is $2,280. And that's a discount because we're a municipality.
How much is that again?
$2,280. So that is, I think, a reasonable price for that kind of direct one-to-one contact. The other resolution is on this, is for the Thrive Hive project. Thrive Hive is a similar type of concept. It's a digital marketing format. And I'm going to let Amy Lanier get into the details on this. But you can use this basically for different purposes. Because we're looking at the direct development contact, to bring development companies here to build housing, commercial, retail, hotels, whatever, that I think the OpSites is better suited for. To attract people that might want to come live here, might want to open businesses here, get out of wherever they're living presently, I think Thrive Hive addresses that. And what we do is we create a landing page with a series of basically bullets. So if anybody within the designated area, let's say, we'll use the area codes or the zip codes for the Bay Area. Anybody that's online in that area keys in any one of those phrases, words that we have identified while they're online, our page will come up. And if they click on it, we'll take the specific information. This is the landing page. This is where we'll describe why you want to move to Mount Shasta. The good schools, the small community, the rural lifestyle, the outdoor recreation, the desirability of our community. So this would really work more for growing your population base, in my opinion. So that's why you have the two different sites. The cost for 1 year for OpSites will depend, I'm sorry, for Thrive Hive is based on how big a penetration, how big a hit you want to make in the market. This is what they're recommending is the basic minimum level to be productive. And that's up to 80,000 hits per month for an entire year. And it allows you to, it's very flexible, you can adjust where you're doing it, you can move from area to area, you can change your landing page, your message, all that's included. And that total cost would come to $13,908. So when you put this in a package which is being recommended here, you're talking basically $16,000, a little over $16,000, $16,188 for 1 year for both programs. And I would like Amy to come up and give a little more detail on how Thrive Hive works. But if you approve this, then what would happen, Catherine, myself, and Amy would work together and design the landing page, and then we would activate this. And these two programs at my direction, Muriel has included in next year's budget. So this would be a budget item for next year.
I haven't included it yet
Okay.
because they haven't approved it yet. So whichever
Thank you.
way it goes, then it'll either go in the budget or it won't.
Why don't we have Amy come up to the mic, and then we'll open it up to questions. Welcome, Amy. Thank you for coming on short notice.
Hi, you're welcome. So I'm not as prepared as I normally would be, but like Bruce was saying, Thrive Hive is an online tool to drive your message to people in your geographic location that you're searching for, the demographics that you're looking for, and the behaviors that you're looking for. And just so you know a little background about Thrive Hive, because when I talked to you, Kathy, you weren't sure what Thrive Hive was. Thrive Hive is, it's recognized as one of the largest leaders in small business digital solutions. We have an unparalleled reach. We are Google AdWords Premier partner. We are a Google partner. We're a Facebook partner. We have a whole dedicated team that puts together all of the ads, all of the landing pages. Like I was talking to you about, they help key in the keywords that would best suit your campaign and the target and strategy that you're looking for. So if it's looking to bring businesses to Mount Shasta, we can target a message to people in that realm. If it's to bring people to the area for tourism purposes, we can target those type of people. If it's moving your families to buy a home and to live in our community and support our existing businesses, it will do that as well. They do a lot. Thrive Hive itself, their team of people does the majority of the background work of all of this. So I would work with Bruce and Kathy to put together what focus we're going with for the quarter. And then I would kind of take it from there, give it over to our on-target team, and they would put together the strategy that works well to reach the people that you're wanting to reach. And so my best example for Thrive Hive is if you're searching on a website, and it can be any website, news site, a Food Network, Google, Facebook, any of those places that you're searching, say that, I always use shopping as an example. So if I was shopping on Macy's for some pants and some jeans, and I then bounced off of that site to Macy's, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna go surf Facebook for a while. And you see those Macy ads across the bottom that have the same items that you were already looking at. That's what On Target does. So I'm within their demographic, their geolocation, and had their behaviors, and so it followed me around. On any site that I would go to, that ad would show. And until I got to the point where it's like, okay, fine, and I'll click on that, and it takes me back to the page to buy whatever it was. So it's the same concept. And that's where the retargeting comes in, because what happens is we implement a pixel on the website or on the landing page if we use the landing page, or the website if we use a website, and anybody that goes or that is served your ad that meets all of the criteria that we set forth, and you can narrow that down as slim as you want, or it can be as broad as you want, but it kind of depends on, with 80,000 impressions, depending on what areas we're reaching, we kind of want to probably narrow the scope down a little bit of the people that we want to reach, so that our impressions go a long ways, and then it retargets those people. So that means that when somebody goes to that site and they're served your ad, your ad will then retarget them when they go to other sites, just kind of reminding them, hey, here's Mount Shasta, you know, hey, you forgot to click on me, you know, hey, do you want to move to Mount Shasta? And it kind of follows them around, just kind of re-implementing your, does not come out of the 80,000 impressions that you initially buy. That's, the retargeting is one impression, and then it will follow that same person because the IP address is the same, and that's how they track it, is by the IP address. Does that make sense?
Yes, it certainly
Okay.
does to me. I had the
Okay.
benefit of a conversation before, but,
Yeah.
so,
And so you know too, that Thrive Hive is not just on target advertising. That's something that we also talked about. And I'll leave these two. I didn't bring packets for everybody, but I'll leave these for you guys to take a look at. It's kind of what Thrive Hive is and then what all we do. Because we do email marketing, we do Facebook advertising, we do Instagram advertising, we do logo creation, we'll build websites, we do search engine marketing, search engine optimization, direct email campaigns, all of that. So it's a complete digital arm of Gatehouse Media. So, you know, it's not just, you know, a small little entity. You know, we do this around the United States. We have 500 plus papers with Gatehouse Media, and all of them participate with Thrive Hive, and they're dedicated to small businesses. That's their specialty, is small business.
good, thank you, thank you. Questions
Do you
of,
guys have some questions?
questions of Amy?
So we would get 80,000 hits, is that what I understand?
80,000 impressions per month.
Per month?
Per month?
Yes.
So that's why when I want a hotel room in Kennewick, Washington, I get
Yes.
bombarded with hotel rooms in Kennewick,
Exactly.
Washington.
That's
for a
exactly
month.
right. That's on target.
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, it's pretty impressive the way that that works then, so.
That's
yeah.
exactly what it is too. If
Okay.
you're, because they know that you're interested in traveling somewhere, going somewhere, they're gonna serve you with all kinds of, you know, here's an ad for this hotel. Do you wanna come here?
So we can set it up for spiritual something, or
Anything.
camping in Northern California,
Yep.
whatever, and they'd get Mount
Biking,
Shasta.
hiking, you know, moving here, our small schools, and, you know, clean air, and, you know, just attract people to the area with whatever. And you can change that. We can change that, you know, on a quarterly basis if you choose, and target different sets of people, different areas of people.
And so would we get a monthly printout of how many
Yeah,
impressions?
that's one thing that's on here, is that we have transparent results. We believe in complete transparency, providing with measurable results through a 24/7 results dashboard that you guys would have access to look at exactly how your campaign is performing.
Thank you.
You had a question, Barb?
Yeah. Yeah, several,
That's fine.
yeah. So how is your effort parallel or the same or similar to the Chamber's effort?
So the chamber, you know, they're not putting out your message to places. If somebody comes to the area, or if somebody Google searches, they might land on the chamber's website, which would give information about you. But the chamber's not targeting people to come here.
Okay, and then you talked about making choices in the marketing and the message and the words. Who is on the team that's making those choices, and how is that decision being made?
Well, whoever would help with, all I would need is like the direction of where you want to go with it and who you want to target. And then our team at On Target does all the back end work. Like, I wouldn't know what keywords are most popular with attracting people to come here for tourism or whatever, but they do. So our team would basically put the majority of it together.
So you're looking for direction from whom then?
Well, I would look for direction
staff.
from,
Okay,
from the staff, yeah.
All right.
Primarily, both Catherine and I would be working
Okay.
with Amy.
Okay, cool. And then, is there a correlation between, how do you measure success, basically, in your campaign? What are your efforts to measure success? You talked about the number of hits, but how many times, how often do those hits actually produce results?
Well, that's what the dashboard would do. The dashboard would show you exactly how many impressions were served that month. And say, for instance, in month 1, it only served 70,000 impressions. You don't lose that 10,000. It carries over to the next month.
Right.
So you're not ever going to lose the impressions. Go ahead.
So I understand impression is like hitting.
A view.
Right? You're
It's a view.
viewing something, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they decide to visit Mount Shasta or do anything related to Mount Shasta.
Right. So you're gonna see how many people clicked on the ad and had interest in it. I'm not quite sure how you would measure if that person actually came and visited.
So there is
But-
currently no measurement of success in a sense. Only that they've hit, but we don't know if they've actually acted upon those hits.
True.
Well, probably the only way you could do that through an automated system like this is put something on the landing page. They click on it. If they responded or did something, if they came here, they got a discount.
Yeah, we did talk about that,
Then you would have at least some measure. It's, you know, the president of the chamber tries to recruit people to come visit through the Visitors Bureau. And Jim puts out all sorts of data on how many hits he gets. I've not seen any follow-up data that says out of that, X people came here.
Right.
They don't have that connection. So that's something that's missing.
So you'd have to follow that person and ask them to, will you take our quick survey or something? Right.
Well, or if we had something on the landing page, like he said, if we designed a landing page that said, bring this into, I don't know, the city office or to the chamber and get a $20 city pass or something like that, you would know that way if somebody acted upon it, or whatever the case may be, whatever you would put on there. It could be somewhat measurable in that respect.
You have some, John?
Yeah, I just have a question about a possible landing, attract businesses to the landing campaign, which is being discussed right here. Have you had experience, or anyone you know at Thrive Hive had experience doing something akin to that exact project? Or is this going to be something totally new where you're, for a municipality or county, actually trying to attract businesses to an industrial park, which is what that is? At the landing. Is this something you have experience with?
Not me personally, but Thrive Hive, yes.
Okay.
And I did try to get a case study prior to coming here, but they're on East Coast time, and I just got busy, so I don't have that at this time, yeah. But yes.
Tim?
All right, I have a number of questions as well, Amy. Last year, CDAC approved doing something like this, which wasn't specifically to drive businesses and families to live in Mount Shasta, but it was with a company called Propel. What's the difference between Propel
They're
and
the same
Thrive Hive?
company. Thrive Hive bought Propel, so we're just a larger, Thrive Hive is the expanded version of Propel. So it's the same company.
All right, and if I recall correctly, CDAC was impressed with
Yes,
the campaign.
yes. And just so you know, the College of the Siskiyous participates in this to bring students to the area. They see great success with it. Big Jim, did this when he was running the ski park, did several on-target campaigns, saw great success from it. We have the resort that's done campaigns, saw great success with it. So there is, a lot of local success stories as well.
You talked about, let's see, could the city target specific age groups in specific zip codes? For example, Silicon Valley or North San Francisco, where there might be people who are working in the computer industry but have to drive 1 or 2 hours each way to commute, and try to encourage them to,
Yes, so you can target any geographic location you want, and it can be as broad or as narrow. You can target any age group, you can target by gender, you can target by belief if you wanted to, you could target by anything, basically. And then their behaviors on what they do. Are they a business owner? Are they looking to move? Have they looked for homes in the past, whatever, or to relocate in the past
could
6
it be
months?
as specific as a household making $100,000 or more with in the range of 35 to 45 years old with school-aged children?
Absolutely, yep,
Really?
yep.
How about targeting small businesses of 12 employees or less,
Yep,
or 6 employees or less?
yep.
And is there a way of targeting specific families that might like four-season climate?
Yeah, because that would be people that like to travel or that like to do, outdoor, different sports and things like that. So yeah, you can narrow down the targeting to any, like I said, as narrow as you want to as broad as you want.
All right, so how flexible is this in terms of once it's established, can it be modified or changed?
Absolutely can be modified, yes. And actually the team at On Target does monitor the campaign. And if they see that, okay, we're not really getting a lot of hits on these phrases or keywords, then we're going to implement these other ones. And it just kind of, they're always refining your campaign to bring you the best results.
Yeah, how does this compare, this sort of marketing compare to just putting ads in the newspaper or ads on the radio in the Bay Area?
Well, because that way you're not necessarily targeting the people that you want your message to hit. You're targeting everybody. So this narrows down that search to just the people that would be interested in seeing your message.
And in terms of expense, how does this compare to?
It's actually very affordable. It's like $10 per 1,000 or per 10,000 impressions.
Could our landing site have a sort of contact us on it so that there's that follow-up, or we get some sense of why they're landing?
Yeah, yep.
Okay. And Muriel, I know we've for years we've simply taken this sort of organic approach. If somebody happens to come here, we'll talk with them. Do we have funds in our economic development account that would cover the cost of these two programs?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, did you?
Go ahead, I have questions, but go ahead.
Oh, do you happen to remember what we spent last year on Propel, on the CDEC? Does anybody remember what we spent? No?
I think it was, if I remember correctly, it was around 1,500 to 2,000.
Okay.
So thank you, Amy. As you and I discussed, it sounds like a really interesting and experiment, really, it would be an experiment for us. I have a couple of questions regarding the overall program. Number one, this is moving into an arena, that being marketing, that we haven't been in before, to any large degree.
We haven't.
So I'm concerned about our ability. Number one, is it the role we want to have as opposed to the chamber, or someone else? How comfortable do we feel? How comfortable do we feel in our expertise to target audiences? the
Well,
number
but remember,
one.
it's not necessarily your expertise. They will help target the people that you're looking for. The on-target team will help
Right.
put that together.
Right, and that would be an interesting partnership. I understand that, but you're looking to staff to first describe who it is we're looking for. For instance, I noticed in the staff report, you want to go to the Bay Area. You've thought about the Bay Area first, the Sacramento Valley second, and Southern California third. I'm wondering if it would be, I mean, how do we know whether we should go for San Francisco or Fort Bragg, for instance? Very, very, very different audiences, very different behaviors, very different incomes, all of those things. So what I'm looking for is efficiency, and I'm looking for effectiveness, as I'm sure we all are. So
I think as Amy pointed out, one of the features of this program is its ability to adjust, to target, to refine as you go. As we sit right now, I have no feeling for how many hits we're going to get and how many people are suddenly going to show up at our doorstep looking
right,
to open a business or buy a house.
right. That's why I said it's an
Now,
experiment.
It is an experiment. As we go forward, if this council thinks we should be trying to bring people out of Fort Bragg, we can do that. I was hitting the major population sectors where the most people are, try to get the most bang for the buck. If we hit the Bay Area with this, let's say, and a month or two in, we're getting nothing, we can reprogram. Move to some other area. One of the ideas behind this, we don't know what we're going to get, so we want a system that adjusts, that is flexible, that refines.
Right.
And as you get further into this, you will then start to have some hard data about what phrases, terms people are responding to and in what areas.
Yeah, very exciting. I understand that. That's I love the flexibility of it. I'm still wrestling a bit with the role, and if we start here, where do we stop? This is an internet marketing. What about, like Tim brings up, there are other forms of marketing. Would we be better off, for instance, I don't know what Jim Mullen's qualifications are as an overall marketing person, but would we be better off spending a bit of money on an overall marketing plan with very clear objectives, and that this being a portion of it, because I don't know exactly what our outcomes we're shooting for. In the write-up, it says, for instance, that we're looking for residents to come. Well, we don't have housing. What are we going to do if we, I'd like to make sure that we're quite clear about what we're targeting and what would be the most effective targets and whether this is the best mechanism for it. So we're wading into this marketing business without much expertise, nor role clarity, and I can just see if we do this first, what are we going to want to do next, and where are we going to draw the line? We don't really have a budget process set up for marketing, so it's a role issue for me, number one. And number two, I'm a little uncertain about spending this much money. I wonder if we could do a trial thing. I understand about the flexibility of changing it, but could we do a trial to see what we get back? 80,000, maybe that's nothing. It seems like a lot to me, but that's a goal, right? That
Yeah, and
measures
that's
the degree of
actually-
penetration.
Right.
Market
So
penetration.
here's to explain that a little bit better. 80,000 is not a ton of impressions a month in an area like Sacramento or the Bay Area.
Yeah.
Now, of course, if you're going to reach just
Right.
Fort Bragg
Fort Bragg,
or the Mendocino area, that's a lot of impressions
Right.
for the month. So
Right.
that impression number is based on the areas we're wanting
Right.
to target.
I mentioned Fort Bragg because a realtor friend in town has a home in both places. She's lived there her family has lived there, and she says that the characteristics of people who live there in that community that used to be Timber Town is now, changed over time to have different industries there, but she said that those are the kinds of folks who already have the kind of attributes you may want, and they may, anyway, so I just bring it up as of what we don't know, actually, and I'm just wondering if,
So can
if
I
this
ask
is what,
Amy-
uh-huh.
can I ask Amy a question?
Sure.
So Amy, if we were to do a trial program, a series of months perhaps, in one area, can you give us the cost estimate? What would be the difference? to the
I
test?
would just keep it the same monthly cost, and then I had talked about a 3-month or a 6-month campaign, if you guys wanted to try it that way.
So 6 months in one
I would say
area,
6 months because that,
basically, we're talking about, what, $7,000?
yeah, about 7,000.
Then we could bring it back with results if that's what the,
And then
Also
Kathy, kind of
prefers-
to further on what you said about talking about a marketing plan as a whole, Thrive Hive can do that as well. Because we have all of those other products. They can look at what you guys want to accomplish as a whole and then recommend some products that would fit into the need of that, of what you're trying to reach. So you don't have to just do on target.
so Amy, if we did a trial program for 3 months, would that be long enough to get really measurable data out of this?
I mean, you would probably get some data out of it. I think 6 months is a more realistic expectation to get some results.
Well, perhaps, just one comment, and then Paul, I'll go to you. Perhaps a workshop or something, if we decide to go with this, a workshop with you.
Absolutely.
to help-
Thrive
to
Hive does.
Help us decide, you know, if we want to do, pay your company for a portion to create a marketing plan, to help us understand other ways that might also be effective, number one. And number two, I just want to comment that I like, you are a local company. I do like supporting a local company in this. Appreciate your time you've already spent on this, Amy. And I know you've been working on this for years with CDAC and previously Propel. So, Paul, do you want to?
So we can have links to the chamber and coordinate some things with events with the chamber on this. And it's been my experience in my business that 90% of the people who shop for homes in today's market do it via the internet. People buy on the internet. They don't look in newspapers to find things in Mount Shasta anymore. That's old hat. That's throwing money down the drain. The internet is about the only place that I feel that would be effective in today's advertising world. Nothing else that I've tried is effective, and I've tried them all. And and I hear this from other business people, that it's the internet that drives. I mean, young people, they're driving up the freeway and they click on the internet to see where something is. I mean, everybody does that now.
Yeah, they look for places to eat.
Yeah, and that would give us some exposure for people who are doing that.
If you watch television ads, you'll see Zillow and other pages like that for buying homes, for house rentals, for vacations. Everything you can think of, there's a company running a digital program like this.
Yeah, I mean,
Highly successful.
yeah. The newspaper is old hat, I'm sorry, but,
Yeah,
you know.
our local newspaper's a little different because we are 100% local news.
Right,
So for the
yeah.
locals, it's great.
Yeah.
But that's one reason why Gatehouse has the digital arm of Thrive Hive, because that is where a lot, I mean, and it's so targeted. You can target exactly who you want to reach. Just like, you know, we were talking about if you put an ad in the newspaper, how does that compare? Well, that newspaper is getting delivered to everybody, you know, around town. And so they might not actually be the person that you're looking for that wants to buy a home or, you know.
And to be honest with you, we make money on taxes and DOT, and if you don't have people here in town buying stuff, we're not gonna make money.
I mean, I think we're starting to enter into discussion mode. I think we want to ask for public comment, please.
Any other questions of Amy or staff? Okay, thank you. Public comment? Okay, Amy, you're welcome to take
Okay,
a
so
seat. and
here, I'm going
thank
to go
you.
ahead and leave.
You might want to wait until you hear the final part of our discussion before you, I know, but I'm just suggesting that she,
I
Okay,
think she
no,
was
no,
going to
I'll
leave,
hang out.
I think you were going to leave that with
yeah,
Yeah.
with
whoever
Catherine.
okay,
For purpose of discussion,
thank you.
I can tell you that I have spoken with Big Jim Mullins about this concept. He very enthusiastically supported and endorsed it. And the chamber's focus is different from the city's focus. Chamber's focus is in terms of tourism. And he represents businesses that may benefit from the tourism, whereas our focus is to build back up the population, fill the schools, bring new businesses into town that are going to hopefully grow and help our community.
Yeah, I spoke with Jim too, I agree, although I
Yeah.
think that they do have an arm of their mission, which is about business recruitment.
So I'm just saying that I think recognizing that, as Amy said, Jim is very experienced at this sort of thing and supports it. I think it's very cost-effective way of getting Mount Shasta known and starting to put the seed in people's mind. Well, maybe they should look at Mount Shasta as a place to live, work, and play.
Barbara?
Yeah, I don't really see that we've proven the correlation between the number of hits and the results. So promises that, we're going to increase the population or we're going to bring businesses here are empty if we haven't shown that this type of effort will actually bring results.
John?
Okay, so prior to this meeting, I had reservations with respect to budgeting. That's been alleviated by Muriel. I had questions about effectiveness with respect to municipalities, and Amy alleviated those concerns. So I'm back to what, and this is my biggest concern, and the mayor hinted at this, is if the campaign is actually successful and brings a lot of interest forward to, with respect to businesses moving here and people possibly moving their families here for whatever reasons, you've got two major stumbling blocks. There is a lack of housing, and there's a lack of infrastructure down there at the landing. So if we're going to do this, and it does create the type of interest in the city that we want, the question is going to be, how do we make the sales happen? Because if we don't have the $5 million infrastructure package set up and ready to go, we may lose a whole lot of sales there, right? So that's my biggest concern. I actually think this probably will generate a lot of interest. Just to give you an example, the ice rink budget for marketing for a 3-month program is $12,000. This is only $16,000 for a full year. I think it's cheap, actually. No offense. And I think it actually probably will create a lot of interest for the city with respect to what we target. The bigger problem is going to be making people actually commit, and there's some major hurdles, housing, stock, and infrastructure. Yeah.
The Offsites Pro will probably bring, or have a higher probability of bringing development companies here that would build the housing.
So you would market to get those people here that would take care of these
That's
problems,
the
hopefully.
Offsites
Okay.
Pro approach that we're recommending in addition to this. This is to grow the community overall. So they kind of go hand in hand.
Right.
And the solution to the landing, it's like the chicken and egg again.
Yeah.
you can't build without infrastructure, we can't get the infrastructure without a building. We gotta create a marriage here.
So you will be marketing towards a higher level client, so to speak, because you do recognize we have these basic structural issues.
Well, we have-
And you're hoping to find people to help with those problems?
Yes,
Okay.
but we're marketing not just the landing,
Yeah.
nor the orchard. We're looking at the Hammond property
Lucille's.
that has a plan on it. It is for sale. Mr. Hammond has established a price. And so these different properties that come up like that, we're putting this into the system.
Can you clarify for people who don't know, like myself, where's the Hammond property?
It's on Pine Street.
Behind the ranger station. Behind the ranger station.
There's a set of apartments that
It's-
are down there, and then
Oh,
there's an
okay.
open space, that is the Hammond property. So we also, on the property in the north end of town, the Moss property, we've also put that out to people. Here's the property, here's what it's zoned for, here are the units that could be built, here are alternatives. So we're doing one-to-one discussion with those.
So Logan told me that you do have a list of properties. You've worked together with a list of properties that could be offered. You
Yes,
have,
as the city goes on, new properties come up, we will add
you
them.
have it, right. Barbara?
When you're talking about a landing page, that's where people, that's your marketing, how you're marketing the city. It's not necessarily talking about the landing, the land, the one
Right.
particular land. So I
It's a
just wanted,
landing page.
the landing page is
Right.
just where people land.
Right.
Right.
Okay, I wonder, are we ready for a motion?
I'm
We
going to
have
move
two motions. Just a minute.
approval of Resolution CCR 1825 and CCR 1826 by title only.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Although,
I think it'd be good to postpone the decision, at least on the Thrive Hive. I would like your support of actually getting together a marketing plan and getting an overview of where we're going with this. I understand Thrive Hive can help, but we can also help ourselves in really defining what it is we want to do and get very clear. So I support you, and I would I would propose that we split into two motions to do each one individually.
I like the idea of, I'm okay with the idea of going ahead with the approval of hiring Thrive Hive with the condition that we look at it in 3 months and see if it's looking to, how we need to tweak it, and then look at it again in 6 months. And if it's not working for us at all, perhaps Thrive Hive would consider, we would look at, with them at a different program, a different focus within their program, their portfolio, number one. So with an agreement that it's, we would monitor effectiveness and perhaps switch gears altogether out of on target. And the second condition then would be that we do a workshop that has us understand better what the full range of marketing possibilities are with Thrive Hive, and perhaps we shift some of the money to one of the other programs and not do all the full amount on target. With that, with those conditions, I'm fine with it.
But doesn't the contract include that type of flexibility? Yes, you do have. Okay.
Yeah.
So are you looking for an exit clause from the contract, actually, ultimately?
No, just an opportunity to flex around different offerings of the sub-programs that Thrive Hive has.
You know, we can use this, I understand about the housing and the landing and the orchard and all of that stuff. But it's also used mainly, in my opinion, for marketing the city as a place to come play. That's how we get people to stay, is we got to get them here first. You know, I mean, we don't really have any ways that we do that I know of. The chamber does a little bit of stuff, but the other is just luck by, you know, well, stopped and got gas here. You don't know how many people I talked to at the gas station. What a neat town. I didn't even know this place existed. So
Well-
there's absolutely no marketing going on. And our,
That's
and
not
our-
true. That's not true.
Well, I don't know.
The
I sure
T-bid,
don't see it.
the T-bid, Discover
Discover-
Siskiyou is starting, is underway, but it's not Mount Shasta specific, you're
No, it
correct.
isn't Mount Shasta
It's
specific.
Siskiyou County.
And it's Siskiyou County, which is totally different. I'm sorry. But-
Well, and Jim has a couple of sites that get a lot of hits.
Yeah.
Out-
But,
out of
I
the
mean,
chamber.
the ice rink
Visitors.
could get a hit off of this too. You know, there's a lot
Right.
of different possibilities. I mean, we can't go in this with tunnel vision. It has to be looked at as a way of, I mean, there's so many variables you can do online now.
Right.
You can plant so many things into your,
So did you hear that, those possibilities in the amendment I offered, that we go ahead with this, but that we look after 3 months and 6 months at possibly looking at different programs that Thrive Hive offers?
If I may respond to that, I'm hearing staff and Amy both say that it is flexible, and what I heard Amy say is the data is available 24/7, not just every 3 months or every 6 months, but it's an ongoing day by day. So I think that whether we look, I think I like the idea of looking at it. I have a feeling that staff's going to be looking at it more than 3 months from now or 6 months from now. This is a ongoing thing that I think creates a great opportunity for the city.
Well, you could approve this with the proviso that staff report to the council
Yeah.
on the results on a given, what you feel comfortable with.
Yeah.
Monthly,
We-
quarterly. whatever
Okay,
you
so we
feel
have a
comfortable
motion and we have a second. All I'm hearing is further advertising for the
I can make
for the
another
motion and second.
Call the
Make
question.
another motion. I can call another, I can make another motion.
Call the question.
All those in favor?
Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Opposed?
Thank you. So we've, can you read back what you think we agreed to?
We-
I was paying attention.
We approved
No,
resolution.
I'm asking staff.
You-
Thank you.
You approved the Upsize Pro for $2,280 per year. You approved the Thrive Hive program as presented. And you approved that with the addition that staff report periodically with no set period.
Catherine, you want to try it?
As far as my understanding is, the motion was not amended.
There was no
Councilmember
amendment
Stearns would have had to
to the
make the
original
motion.
motion.
What did you say?
There's no amendment.
There's no amendment to the original motion to approve the two resolutions as presented in the packet.
The motion was made and seconded. There was an amendment proposed, never decided on. The question was called, the vote passed.
So I think that at any time we wish, we can ask staff to give us an update.
And there's no link to results. You can see how many hits you get, but there's no link to results.
Well, there's,
Well,
yeah.
we'll find out whether that's the case or not.
Okay, let's move on. Thank you.
Mayor Mortar, what was your vote on that?
I voted in favor.
Thank you.
Forward.
Okay, we move on now. Thank you very much, Amy and all. We move on now to item number 9, the cannabis tax measure.
Thank you. So City Council had charged city staff with coming together with cannabis, a local cannabis tax measure language and program. Our previous discussion was about whether the council wanted us to pursue a special tax or a general tax, and the direction was given for a general tax. So Muriel and I have put together a proposed measure language with the county clerk pre-approving this language as stated, and our city attorney, John Kenny, and we are also bringing forward a resolution to appoint 2 of the planning commissioners who operated on the cannabis subcommittee as the arguments for on the city's behalf. So the The measure is broken down into 3 distinct sections. It's cultivation, manufacturing, and retail. Cultivation is the most difficult, I guess, to grasp because there's a little bit of a moving piece there, so I will begin with that one. So the cities, at other cities, as well as doing some research of our own, we looked at what the costs of leaves and flowers are going for, trying to watch the market carefully. One of the things we want to keep in mind when setting the rates, setting the caps in our initial starting rate is that we don't want to price the product into the black market. We want to make sure that it's accessible. That being said, those who hold a state medical card are exempt from all taxes, so this tax would not affect those who are registered medical card holders. So that's something to point out. So in addition to that, the way that the product is put on a shelf, a final product will have they will pay sales tax when they purchase that. They will pay the state excise tax, which is 15%. Our local sales tax is 7.5%, in which we receive 1% back from the state. And then what we're proposing is if the voters see to it that this measure passes, there would be an additional local excise tax in which we would collect directly fully. So what we're proposing for cultivation is to tax similar to the state, just to make it easier for our cultivators. So we're proposing a cap of 35 cents per dry weight ounce for flower products, and that is the most concentrated part of the plant. That's where you're going to get the highest amount of cannabinoid in those, and those are typically what you see as a traditional bud for smoking. Those can also be used for product manufacturing, but they are kind of the choice part of the plant. So the cap for that we're recommending is 35 cents, and like I said, Muriel and I took the amount that cannabis retailers were paying for, I believe, an ounce of that, calculated out what about 3 to 5% of that would be, and then that's how we came up with the number, and that's what we did for the other pieces as well. So our proposed cap for dry weight ounce leaf product is 10 cents. There's less final cannabinoid in that product, and is less valuable. And then a proposed 5-cent cap per fresh weight ounce of fresh cannabis plant product. So this is plant product that is basically taken out of its cultivation system and then basically weighed within 2 hours of the product being harvested. Thank you. So what we're proposing to start at is 30 cents per dry weight ounce flowers, 8 ounce per dry weight ounce leaves, and 2 cents per fresh weight ounce of fresh plant matter. These are all on page 75 of your packets. This basically was about 3%, so we tried to set everything at a 5% threshold of what the prices are now, and then our recommended start is about 3%. And we took a look at that from other places. We are significantly lower than most other jurisdictions. Reason for that is, again, we do not want to price out the market here. It is a little bit tougher of a system to have up here. We're not as close to testing facilities. We're not as close to certain services for the supply chain yet. I'm not saying that that can't improve in the future, but our products up here tend to cost a little bit more than you would in a major metro area. So that's why we're keeping our taxes low. So moving on to the manufacturing aspect of the tax, we're proposing a per square footage tax, which is similar to the city of Shasta Lake. The city of Shasta Lake actually uses a per square foot tax for cultivation as well. We decided not to do that model because there are various factors in cultivation, like plant yield, growing factors like water rates, fertilizer costs, and plant disease that could affect the actual end agricultural product. And so we're trying to keep the cultivation product an ag product that way. So that way, if there's a bad yield, they're not punished through excessive taxes per square foot. The nice thing about a per square foot tax is it's easily predictable every year. We know how much we're getting in. So as you'll see on table A, page 75, I did a factor. Every single license holder for a manufacturing license has to tell me how much square footage is used in the manufacturing areas of their rooms. So I gave you an estimate of what it would be, $1 to $5. We're proposing to start at $1. This being the manufacturing is a very cost-intensive practice, and actually all of our manufacturers in the area are very new, so they're not making a huge amount of revenue yet. But doing a $1 per square foot at least gets us an estimated annual revenue of $32,000. So you'll see with the manufacturing as well as the retail in the next paragraph that I did do some estimated projected revenues. We do have to report an estimated projected revenue in the measure language as per the county clerk's direction. We cannot accurately predict what the cultivation is going to bring in because we've never had it before. We did end up on page 76, I explained that we ended up at a final predicted annual income of $130,000 from this proposed tax if it were to pass. Like I said, we can confidently predict retail and manufacturing at about $68,000. And then again, the rest of that 130 is just it's an estimate based off of other cities and what they're pulling in. But again, I can't predict what that is, and no one really can as far as what our final outcome is. Muriel and I strive to give you the low conservative numbers, so that's kind of where we came with that. The last piece of this, the third piece, is the retail sale aspect, and that's basically capping retail sale local excise tax at 5%, beginning at 3%. Predicting if we were to do $1.2 million worth of sales, which is a low estimate again of the numbers we've been putting up the past few months in the retail sector, that would net us about $36,000 in the retail aspect. So again, we came up with this tax. Muriel did quite a bit of investigation into how the state collects and into how to calculate a lot of these rates. We took a look at a lot of different cities and options, and then the other thing too is we need to take in our local circumstances. We are a very new economy when it comes to cannabis products, as well as production, and so we do not recommend going to the highest amount because they are very new and they're still paying a lot of initial investment costs for their equipment and facilities. One of the things too with the $130,000, it is low because 2 of the 9 facilities are building from the ground up and will not be complete until it's a predicted August of 2019, and then the other one is a predicted, I believe, July or August of 2020. So not all of your production is up and running yet, but putting this tax in place will at least give us a nice little boost into the general fund for projects like road improvements, initial safety staff, etc.
Thank you, Juliana. Questions of Juliana or Muriel? Not at all.
No, well, I'll just get to the point. So how would you expect the taxes to be paid by these people usually? Cash or check?
Typically, we get cash from the license. So the people who have paid for their licenses so far, they have to pay an annual license fee, as you remember, of $320 per license. So they've pretty much been paying in cash, to my understanding. But again, I don't go and look at what the finance department is collecting. No, I don't go to the front and look. I should maybe. No.
And Muriel, we still use the same bank that we've been using?
I can't.
We still use the same bank that we've been using all along, Tri-Counties?
Tri-Counties, yes.
Okay.
And we have had no issues on that side of things.
So I have a couple questions. Juliana, thank you. Why is the ballot wording not percentages and caps? It seems like it would be more informative to the voters than just 130,000, which could change easily.
So there is a legislative cap of, I can't remember how many words per measure. And actually, I originally, in a sense, modified the City of Shasta Lakes measure language, which John Kenny is also their city attorney, so it was a pretty good avenue. And it was rejected by the county clerk. So she said that we were over the amount of wording, and then we needed to have the estimated amount of tax, but they did not require us to have the proposed caps or the initial starting values. One thing to remember is when the packets, the packets you've gotten for the June ballot come out, our ordinance will be in there, as well as the arguments for and against the proposed tax measures. So frankly, a lot of our language was really more about getting approval from the county clerk for Siskiyou County than, you know, we did put a very straightforward one with the caps in, but that was rejected.
Let's not forget to do the resolution about who would be doing the ballot
Yep.
arguments.
That's as far as the arguments.
Mhm.
Yep, I brought that up at the beginning.
Okay, I missed it, sorry. Why not tax distribution and testing?
So right now, we don't have any testing facilities. There are approximately 8 or 9 testing facilities in the entire state of California. 3 or 4 of them are in the Bay Area, is my understanding. It's very, very difficult to have those types of facilities, and they're very, very cost intensive. And frankly, the amount of money we would collect on them if we had one would be extremely minimal. Frankly, they would probably pay more in annual licenses, and most other jurisdictions do not tax testing facilities just because they have so many other higher benefits. They tend to have a median income of around $85,000 for the people who work there. They tend to pay every other type of development impact for that. As far as distribution, so the way that the taxes are collected on the state side is that the distributor actually pays all of the state excise tax. And frankly, the distributors don't produce anything, and they don't really do anything of service that's really easily taxable. So frankly, a lot of the money that they're making is really just a service transporting between one facility to another. And when you actually break down how much of an administrative cost it would be to oversee, you know, the collecting of each one of those distributors, it ends up not really coming out as a beneficial thing for the city to invest in.
Thank you. One last question then. So if we want down the road to, we look at an amount of income that's coming in and we decide we want to reduce it or we want to increase it, what's the mechanism?
So in the Exhibit A, I think I attached it to this. Yes, Exhibit A, attachment number 2 to your packet is the ordinance that will be put forth to the voters. And if the voters so choose to put that tax measure and ordinance forward, it states that the City Council at any time can pass a resolution to change the percentage amount or amounts per dry ounce or per fresh ounce, or for fresh product as well. You may do that through a resolution. If you would like to exceed the cap of the ones that I had stated, which are listed on page 75, you would have to go back to the voters. So the recommendation by the city attorney was just to establish a cap and not a range because it's just so low. So we'll start at this one. At any time, you can pass a resolution to go as long as you're under those caps.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Okay,
Public comment.
we have, I'm sorry?
Public comment.
Ken, do you have public comment about this? No? Okay, thank you. So we have 2 resolutions and we have an ordinance. Let's start with the resolutions. Is there a motion, please?
Yes, move approval of resolution number CCR 18-27, resolution of the City Council of the City of Mount Shasta requesting the election clerk of the County of Siskiyou to place on the November 6, 2018 ballot a ballot measure to adopt a general sales and transaction tax to tax cannabis retail activities, and resolution number CCR 18-28, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Mount Shasta authorizing ballot arguments and rebuttal arguments for the cannabis industry tax by title only.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second with the correction. The whereas statement requires a 2/3 vote of the council. I'd like to see that state a majority of the council instead. That's
No,
not
it requires a 2/3 vote.
2/3 vote of all council members. That means 4 of us have to approve.
Right, that's right.
Is that true?
That's my understanding. Is it?
You need 4 council members to approve this?
It's a majority vote.
Majority vote of the council.
Is it a majority vote?
And
All
then
right.
50% for the general.
You're talking about of the council members, majority vote of the council members, majority?
Council members.
All right, I'll
Is
So
that true
I
for the
move
ordinance as
I move the
well?
resolutions with that modification.
Why am I thinking it's two-thirds, right? To put something on a ballot, does it have to do with a ballot?
My understanding is it's two-thirds if it's the, putting it on the ballot measure.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll make it two-thirds.
that's what I was thinking,
So,
It's another person, so.
right.
all right, so I move the approval of those two resolutions as written.
Okay.
And did you second it, Barbara?
Yeah.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye?
Aye. Any opposed?
Opposed?
Opposed, one opposed. Okay, thank you. And
So
now
that was
let's,
a 4-to-1 vote. Yes?
move to the ordinance wording. That would
We
be
don't, we don't move to approve the ordinance because that's what goes on the ballot.
we don't have to,
Public is approving the ordinance.
but don't we have to approve the wording? Oh,
It's,
Well, you can talk about it, but again, it's been passed by the county clerk and the city attorney, so I would very much advise you not to change anything, because they can send the ordinance back as well and have us change it, which is what they made us do before.
by passing resolution number 18-27, we are
we're
basically
passing that on. Okay,
putting Exhibit A to the
that's
voters.
fine. Okay, and we don't need to number it then, and we won't
Correct.
until it's approved. Okay, okay, thank you for the clarification. Okay, very good. So Rod, I think you're up. Recommendation of award for Alma Street signal replacement.
You know, they say they sometimes save the best for the last.
That's right. Time myself on this. So, I'm sorry, are you ready? Did I miss? Okay. So, Alma Street traffic signal project bid award. We had the bid opening last Thursday, 22nd. We only received one bid for this, so we're recommending no action at this time. We felt the bid was a little high. We had engineer's estimate of about $100,000, and the bid came in at $168,000, almost $169,000. So we're in the process of talking to the one bidder, seeing kind of what he was thinking on certain bid items and where we might have been off, and just kind of reevaluating the scope of work. And, you know, we're going to anticipate possibly bringing this back in the near future. We might rebid it, see if we can get some better prices. We could change the scope, but there's really not much to it. We've already purchased the new signal heads and equipment and cabinet and controller and all that stuff to be identical to the signal at the other intersection on Mount Shasta Boulevard at Lake. So that's kind of where we're at. We have all the materials on hand. We sole source purchased it, and in anticipation last year of being able to go out to bid and do it much quicker than this time schedule. However, the traffic signal pole that we had to order, there was a longer lead time than we anticipated on that. It put us basically out of that construction window last year. So, you know, in the meantime, we'll continue operating in flash mode as it has for the last year or two, and see what we can do to possibly bring this project in at a lower cost. One of the other aspects to this project was the possibility of installing the rectangular rapid flashing beacons and advanced warning on the crosswalk on South Mount Shasta Boulevard at Alpine Street. We have received a number of complaints, reports of near misses from pedestrians crossing at that location. We looked at, by we, I mean myself, city staff, and our city engineer, Jim Elkins, looked at different options and came up with this as the lowest cost
easiest short-term solution to this issue. And we felt it was a pretty decent treatment to install here. We looked at bump outs at that location. It really doesn't work there. We looked
You looked at what?
bump outs like we did
Bump
at Chestnut and Lake to kind of shorten the walking distance for the pedestrians. There's a pretty significant crown in the road there, pretty steep slope on either side. And then the right turn only movement off Alpine also limits what you can do and complicates snow removal. We looked at installing a center island, refuge island, so pedestrians could just essentially cross half the street at a time and have a safe place in the middle to kind of stage their crossing in two attempts there. But really, that's not ideal either. Any larger vehicles turning right there would be restricted by that center median. It's a really tight turning radius. So there's not a lot of other construction improvements we can do there. We can eliminate the crosswalk altogether. That is one option we can go with. We can relocate it. We could, if we eliminate the crosswalk or move it down further, it would take probably about the same amount of money if not more, to redo curb ramps. It has each side of where the existing crosswalk is currently has brand new curb ramps that were installed in the last couple years ago RSTP project. So that would have to be modified because you wouldn't want to have a curb ramp down the street with no crosswalk. And if we moved it down, then we'd have to install new ADA curb ramps at that location. So significant, probably $5,000 to $8,000 per ramp if we were to put that out to bid and get that done. Probably more if it was such a small project. It could be incorporated into a larger sidewalk project in the future if we have money. But at this point, we do not have a sidewalk project in the works. So, yeah, just wanted to take this opportunity to open that up for discussion, get council consensus on if you would like us to proceed with the rectangular rapid flashing beacons. And I can explain a little bit more in detail how those exactly would work as well, if council would like. But we're just kind of looking for guidance on what kind of the expectation is here. I believe Parrish wrote a staff report several months ago to the effect that he provided that there's no accident data there. There's or maybe one or two incidents there. So it really doesn't, other than the perceived safety issues there and the reported complaints and near misses, that's what's driving this request. So.
Thank you. Questions of Rod?
Yeah, it's really dangerous there. I go through there several times a day. Have you ever thought of possibly putting a 15-mile-an-hour speed limit around that curve? I mean, you cannot pull out of there, out of the post office on Alpine and go southbound on Mount Shasta Boulevard without somebody coming around that corner at 40 miles an hour and almost rear-ending you. It's just insane.
Yeah.
And I stop for pedestrians and people pass me on the right. Something has to be done there because somebody's going to get killed. So it's really dangerous.
Speed limit sign, yeah, how we could certainly put one up. That would be a very inexpensive treatment. How effective it would be, who knows?
Yeah, and Ron, I'm sorry. When you pull out of there too, the driver has, you know that they're going to come really fast, and people bolt out and cross across. So you've got a driver's got a lot of stuff they have to look at. So it's kind of confusing, to people sometimes.
That's why we felt like, so I will go into a little detail. The flashing beacons would consist of pedestrian activated button. So when somebody wants to cross the crosswalk, they would hit the button and it would send a signal to the crosswalk signs with those two square LED bright, really very bright flashing lights. So there would be one visible from the northbound traffic direction, and there would be two on the southbound direction, the problem, heading south as you're going around the corner, there would be one right at the crosswalk, actually a little bit past it just because of a visibility issue with an existing power pole. But the advanced warning would be before the car, it would be visible to the southbound motorist before they make the corner. So before they even, so there'd be advanced right in the Black Bear Gallery area. So as you're traveling southbound, before you can even see the crosswalk, that sign would start flashing, alerting the motorist to, hey, there's someone in the crosswalk. Now, if they completely ignore it, that's another thing, but it would raise visibility, and at least there would be that advance, that flashing to warn somebody, hey, crosswalk ahead, and somebody's crossing. And that was the intent, to put 2 on the southbound, 1 advanced before they can even see the corner and see the crosswalk.
Rod, in terms of the bid from,
SNL Group.
right, the bid is, do you consider the bid for the traffic signal to be in the ballpark, or do you consider that to be high also? Because you are suggesting that we reject the bid.
We would reject the whole thing. The 168 for the Alma Street signal we felt was a little high, and the 41,000 for the out alternate I felt was very high. The equipment itself is in the range of $13,000.
Okay.
So the rest was installation. So
Yeah.
we could do that in-house, and we originally planned on doing that with our own, with our own staff. I just thought this would be a good opportunity since they were doing similar work to get it done under this contract. But
I like the idea of the pedestrian warning or the vehicle warning, as the case may be. And if we can do it in-house, so much the better.
yeah.
Other questions of Rod? I have a couple, Rod. When you, this is the Alma Light, what is the range of area that you send out the RFP for? And is it unusual to have just gotten one bid back?
You know,
What's the range?
It's a fairly specialized, and I mean, any contractor can do it. For whatever reason, we only got one bid. We did our usual CIPlist.com, which anyone with an internet connection that are looking for work can see it. Same bidding schedule as my Ream Avenue project, and we got, what, 6 bids?
Right.
So these same contractors, for the most, with the exception of paving-only contractors, probably wouldn't have bid this.
Is Northwest a paving-only company?
I believe so.
Because I was thinking, I wondered if you could add this to the awarded contractor for the other one and get some lower cost estimate, because they'd be in the area anyway?
We can look into that. I don't know. It certainly wouldn't be funded with the STIP money for the Ream Avenue project, because that wasn't included in the environmental document for that project.
Right,
But as a change order to that, we might be able to look into that. But I don't think that I think they're pretty much paving only. But we can look into that. And if that was the case, then I guess we would probably come back to council for approval to do that, if that was an option.
Okay, any other questions of Rod? Okay, Ken, would you like to comment then?
Oh, would I like to comment? I just don't know where to start.
Well, you have 3 minutes, dear, so.
Hey, the lady up here had half an hour. I need at least 15.
No, the lady up there was part of the agenda.
This is a very complex issue. You cannot put this aside because it's one of the traffic issues that the council keeps ducking. We have problems on the roads. The comments on our traffic signal and pedestrian crosswalk and all the rest go back at least 10 years. Previous council, there's only one member who's still here, but the previous council passed the bike and pedestrian statement and accepted it, and one of the 2 major crosswalk and crossing issues was at Lake and Pine. not anywhere else. And this light, this blinking light has been working just fine for months and is still working just fine. The problem in this from a driver's point of view, is the confusion, especially if you're going east, between traffic lights on the corner and the next block where you have a blinking light. And if you're a stranger to town, does that blinking light have any effect on what's happening on the street before it? It is a very confusing situation for people who aren't somewhat familiar. We need a really good look at the whole pair of intersections and a discussion of what should be and a discussion of whether this is even needed to be fixed up. Now we're at the point of asking the city for almost double the amount of money, and the city council has already in a previous meeting taken your first guaranteed regional measure money, the regional measure 1 money, and thrown it at this traffic signal, which could have completed your downtown sidewalk situation, because it is optional use on that regional money. It's just money given to the city to do what they want on transportation issues. So I am really glad the staff recommendation is that you hold on to this and think about it. But I think it's time for a workshop that brings the public together, that says where are the problems traffic-wise and all various other in the city, and let's have a discussion. This is not just an engineering issue. It is a use of the city's arteries. The idea that we take a little bit of money that could have done some really good stuff. Now, we're talking about, among other things, and I agree, we did a real major repair of the traffic intersection issues right between Rite Aid and the city and the mall. And what have we got now? We have no budget for maintenance. Over a month, the crosswalk light to the Black Bear has been turned out of service because I guess we don't have the money to bring whoever the proper engineer is in and get that thing to work. It worked literally for 5 weeks.
So Ken, at the risk of really irritating you, I'm going to ask you for this short period of time that you have to focus on the items that are on the agenda. Then
this is the item on the agenda.
The light in front of Black Bear?
Well, you're talking about putting a very expensive new situation in. There's no statement here as to what this is going to buy.
We heard your comment, did we not, about you're glad that we're not approving putting in the light at Alma.
Who will buy? What is this going to buy? Will it buy a maintenance contract that actually your active transportation committee was at work at that time, had membership. We never heard of it. We never saw it. It was never presented to us. What was going to happen. It was never presented to the council when you approved moving the regional measure money to it. We still don't know exactly what the engineer says they're going to do.
So I hear your objection to that street light.
So from the point of view of this light, I think we need to take a lot more better look at what you're going to put in for the 2 corners that are visual in relation to this light and how they will affect each other, and therefore I think it's a great idea to hold on to it, and I think you need to find a way to get more input. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, comments, council discussion.
I move the city take no action on the bid as recommended by staff, or in accordance with the recommendation by staff.
There is something that is thrown into the staff memo here that is not this light. And that is putting in a blinking signal, this Capico signal that is part of your packet. It was thrown in as paragraph 3. I think this is a great thing to do. There's nothing that says that looks at the crosswalk. The crosswalk question should be reevaluated. Is that the appropriate location for the crosswalk for this light? What is the relationship of the crosswalk to the bus stop, which is a full city block away at the moment? And since it's in your packet, what you're voting on, are you voting to not implement this crosswalk or to reevaluate this? What's this doing in the packet?
Thank
and
you.
what are you asked for?
Thank you. Good points. Thank you.
So
Okay,
there's a
yes.
motion pending.
I'm sorry?
There's a motion that I've made.
And
to
that motion
take
was?
no action in accordance with staff to take no action on the bid that we received.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Council discussion?
So, you think you can come up with an in-house remedy to the crossing on Alpine there?
Already did. You got it.
So let's
Okay.
take both of these separately. This
We
is,
only have one item on the agenda.
there's one item on the agenda, right?
Is a
And
staff report on the bid.
right,
You need to take action on that.
right.
The rest was, if you take no action, the rest of the discussion goes away, and staff will bring other issues, including crosswalks, back to you at a later date.
Yeah, I'd like to second that. I mean, I'd like to agree with that, that the second item needs to have been agendized.
We will
Um,
take, staff
and-
will make sure that happens.
Yeah, I appreciate your responsiveness, and I'd like to see it agendized with some options about, some longer-term options about that crosswalk. Are there options to move that crosswalk to another place? It's a very
There's a
dangerous.
motion that's pending with a second.
I understand.
That's all that we're discussing right now, is whether to accept the bid or not.
I am agreeing with
Can we
the
move
city
on? Can we-
manager. Excuse me, Tim.
You're
I'm
out of
agreeing with
order.
the city manager that we have the second item agendized on a future agenda item. I will now return to the subject at hand, which is the motion that we agree with the staff report that we not take action on the Alma Street light. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. I need not much help in this matter.
Point of order, I wanted to comment on the public comment. Where do you do that? I mean, was that gone? Is that came and went, or?
I would say that we talk about that under future agenda items. How about that? Thank you. Okay, I believe we're finished with that item. Shall we go to the Ream Avenue Rehab Project, please?
So Ream Avenue, we did get several bids. Same bid opening date. Bid range from slightly over 298,000 to about 391,000. The lowest bidder was Northwest Paving. The bid has been reviewed and approved by Pace Engineering, and they're recommending that we award the construction contract to Northwest Paving. This is funded by the STIP program. We've been working on this for several years. We've been awarded environmental and planning money, $6,000 for that, and then in 2015 or 2016, we completed the plan specification estimates phase, and that was, I believe, 24,000. So we've received a total of 30,000 so far from the state for the first two phases of this project, and we were forget which month meeting it was, but the CTC approved the $389,000 for the construction for this project. So
LTC.
no, the California Transportation
Oh,
Commission
okay.
approved and allocated
thank you.
or programmed the money for us. So, so that's what this is. We did get several, and we're recommending that we authorize the city manager to execute the agreement and issue the notice to proceed.
Okay, any questions of staff? Thank you, Rod. Questions? Yes.
So you recommend going with the lowest bidder, so under what is the situation if they actually construct and it goes over bid? Let's say they underbid to get the job and it really costs them a lot more money. What are the circumstances then?
So they are bound by their lump sum prices that they submit in their proposal, and also their per unit prices. So if they say it's going to take X amount of dollars per square foot of concrete work, that's what they get paid. The quantities can and often do change in the field. Sometimes they end up with, they do maybe 5,000 more square feet of concrete work. They get that bid unit price for every unit of quantity that in the bid. So
Yeah.
they are bound by that, and we are obligated to pay them that, but conditions can and do change, quantities change, and in some cases, a lump sum quantity can change if they run into unforeseen problems in the field. You know, they can ask for a change order to change the price for that particular task.
So any subsequent change request,
Sure.
sometimes they'll spend less money than what they bid.
Sometimes it'll be under.
Sometimes they'll spend more money
Right.
than what they bid on
Sometimes we'll make
different
changes, we'll say, no, don't do this. You know, if it's a small amount, it's, if you get to be, you're changing, 50 or 60% more of the project,
Right.
you can't go that far, but little changes here and there, yeah, the quantities are gonna vary.
Okay.
This is basically just an estimate and to lock in a lump sum price or a unit price.
Okay. And unit price is the section, you mean the unit section?
Unit price is for example, we may ask for a per foot bid on curb and gutter, or a square foot price for sidewalk or demolition or whatever, per foot of 8-inch water main, or whatever the
Okay.
thing is, we
That's a unit
sometimes
price.
ask
Okay,
for a
got
unit
it.
price.
Thank you. So it was interesting looking at the summary sheet of all the different bids and the different parts of the job and the varying prices. I was surprised that there's such a large degree of difference between the different companies and the different aspects of the job. And I guess, how would you interpret that? I'm just wondering.
It's not uncommon. It varies from contractor to contractor on a lot of different factors, on what they're set up to do, what their schedule is,
Whether they sub it out or not, maybe.
whether they're paying a sub to do a certain portion of it or doing it in-house. Sometimes they'll and they have to sit down and figure out, okay, how competitive am I going to be on this, and how much profit do I need to make, and what can I get the job done for, and maybe they're thinking of prices, like they might have a problem with this, and so they'll bump up their price on a certain item a little bit, thinking there might be some problems, or and so you're going to get that varying, and this I think was, according to the engineer, I believe was 30-some% difference from high to low, which is not uncommon. The last emergency paving project we did, there was a 40% difference, and it was a much smaller amount. It was like the difference of 109,000 to 140,000 or something like that. So it didn't seem as big, but as the numbers get bigger and the project gets bigger, it percentage-wise, it's about the same. So I wasn't surprised by this at all. It was a good range of bids, and we felt like we got some good prices. And so.
Other questions of Rod?
Yeah, so Rod, this covers from Mount Shasta Boulevard all the way to the railroad tracks?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, down there.
And, yeah, I've read the details. I'm pretty happy with everything I see there. Obviously, no sidewalks.
I'm sorry?
No sidewalks are included in this project?
Yeah, there's some sidewalk work.
Oh, there is, okay.
Yeah,
Great.
there's
There are sidewalks there.
4-inch thick concrete, there's 1,360 square feet of 4-inch concrete, which would be sidewalk.
Okay, great.
6 or 8-inch thick concrete would be driveways and places like that, so.
Okay, so this is going to make, I drive this road a lot, and it's going to make it a nice, beautiful, smooth road, so that leads to the question, how are the pipes underneath it? I know there was some sewer pipe work done back in 2010, maybe, to alleviate a bottleneck that was there. So what are the utilities like underground? Drainage, water, sewer? Do you see any problems with those where you're going to have to dig up this beautiful street a year from now?
Not in a year, and there wouldn't be money to do it anyways, so. We have a lot other priority areas for everything, water and sewer, so it's, yeah, no.
It'd be good for
We might be digging it up if there's an emergency, but, it's kind of the way it is around here.
Other questions, Rod? Well, speaking of digging up this beautiful street, wasn't there conversation at one point, Rod, about diverting traffic that's coming up from the south on Ream onto Old McLeod, so it doesn't come out at that awkward place onto the boulevard? And what happened to that?
Well, it's come up every once in a while. It can still be done. All I'm doing is fixing the asphalt. And, the question of one way on that short section can still be a topic of conversation. It's not a part of this project. And really all it would be is some signage and striping change down the road. But right now I'm just going to pave it and fix it.
So there's nothing that you'll be doing that would have to be undone in order to make that that other improvement?
No.
Okay.
We are going to be looking at bringing back in the near future a discussion about making some of that on Ream Avenue in the limits of this project, no parking, because of a narrow lane width issue. And we're not, this project isn't changing the right-of-way width. We're staying within the existing edge of pavement and curb and gutter and sidewalk. We're not making anything wider. We can't. There wasn't money for it. We couldn't add bike lanes. We looked at all that. It just wasn't going to happen with this project. So we will hopefully make a recommendation to make a portion of that in the Mount Shasta ambulance area, no parking. We've gotten a number of complaints mostly from emergency vehicles and their inability to, kind of traverse traffic coming up and down. And now that, the district fire station is out there, and it's a common link between in-city and out-of-city services and facilities that we now are kind of shared. So there's a lot of traffic with our fire trucks going back and forth through there. So it's a definite concern, and we are letting Planning Commission kind of talk about it first, which wasn't a requirement, but we felt it was a good, reasonable approach to take with this one, to get more buy-in and then present you guys with, okay, here's the option. We'd like to make this section no parking. I believe that would be an ordinance revision, so we have a little bit of a process to go through to get that no parking, at least part of it. We did originally kind of plan to make the entire section no parking, but we've already gotten feedback from the residential area kind of between Mount Shasta Boulevard and Old McLeod Road, that residential section in there. I feel like they're most likely against it. So, and it doesn't have to be no parking there. I think we can work around that. And a section of it, I might add, is already no parking on, I can't remember the exact limits, but a portion of our ordinance already makes a portion of Ream Avenue no parking on the east side, I believe, between Court and, I can't remember exact limits, but, so we would be making probably a recommendation to expand that a little bit to make it safer for vehicles. It's a pretty narrow road down there. So on-street parking really is an option.
Okay, thanks. One last question I have. I may have misunderstood, but it seemed like that $389,000 was awarded. That's the fund we had, but the low bid that you want to award comes in at $298. what happens to the balance?
Oh, I'm going to spend it.
I know, but, so it doesn't go away, it doesn't
No,
go away
probably-
time-wise either? We have,
I'm gonna use it up in this project.
Oh, you're gonna use it on
Um,
this project.
You know, yeah, oh, yeah, definitely. We're not sending any money back.
yeah.
I can increase the paving. One of the areas I have my eye on is the sidewalk on Siskiyou Avenue that's really in bad shape. I think I can get that done. But we'll see how much money we had to work with. We'll do a change order to improve and increase some of the quantities that's already in the contract, whether it's more asphalt on these adjacent streets. I did give myself some flexibility in the environmental document in that regard, so I can go up Siskiyou Avenue or up Court or up Old McLeod, or, you know, contiguous to that project location. So we can definitely use that money up.
Okay. And if you do send this to the Planning Commission to look
To
at
the no parking issue?
the no parking issue, can you also have them look at the one-way onto Old McLeod? Just to,
I don't
I don't
see
know if
why-
it's, I don't know how much of a priority it is, but given the extra traffic you just described and the emergency nature of it, maybe the timing is good. If they're going to look at one, they could look at the other one? Is that a,
I think they probably could look at that. I'll work with Juliana to approach
Okay.
that.
thank you. Other questions? Rod? No? Okay, Ken?
Thank you.
comment,
You
please.
both asked the two questions that I wanted to ask, so I don't have to ask them. I assume you're going to stripe for bicycles down, bicycle lanes down there?
No, I just got through saying there's no room for bike lanes in there. It's like 14-foot width on either side of the center lane, and if you have 12-foot for travel lane, that leaves you 2-foot shoulder, which is not enough for a bike lane. So no bike lanes will be striped as part of this.
Okay, well, it's a short distance anyhow. As long as there's sidewalks, I think that's a big improvement.
Yeah. We'll make sure there's good connectivity.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Okay, is there a motion to approve this?
Move approval of resolution CCR 18-29, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Mount Shasta awarding the 2018 Ream Avenue Rehabilitation Project contract to Northwest Paving, Inc. in the amount of $298,327 and authorizing the city manager to execute the agreement and issue a notice to proceed by title only.
Thank you. Who wants to second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, unanimous. Thank you. Okay, we'll move now to item number 13. Thank you, Rod. Set date and time of protocols workshop.
Okay, so Wednesdays, right? Please.
I don't know what she's proposing.
Whatever council's availability is. It
Have
seems
you
like
any
Wednesdays are
proposals?
working well.
Do you have something to start with?
Are you waiting for ideas from us?
Yeah, June 6th is my first availability. I don't know what the rest of the council's thinking.
I won't be here that day.
I have a dentist appointment, so.
What date did you just throw
The
out?
sixth.
June 6th. Now, John, are you available on Tuesdays as well, or is it just?
Not for those type of meetings. They go long.
Needs to be Wednesday.
Yeah.
So nothing that
What
first,
about the following Wednesday, June 13th?
Yeah, it's fine. 3 o'clock.
I'm not here.
I'm not available. Okay.
June 20th?
I'm not here.
June 27th?
Is Wednesday your only day?
For that type of meeting, yeah. It's 2-3 hour meeting, sure.
How
I'm
does
I'm not.
June 27th look?
I'm gone to the mayor meeting.
And then the following Wednesday is July 4th.
I can do that.
All right, so we have to try for maybe Tuesdays then?
Back in June?
How about June 18th, which would be the third Monday in June? It's not a city council date,
You mean late in the day?
late in
Yeah.
the day.
I'm not here. All we need is a quorum. I'm not here. I'm taking vacation that week.
How about June 4th? Again, that's a Monday. It's not a city council meeting. We could do it late in the day.
I'm good.
I'm good.
What do others have to say?
That's a week from today, basically, a week from yesterday.
Correct. Catherine?
Paul, good?
What time?
Barb
would-
can't make it?
But you can have it without me first.
What time are you available on Monday, on June 4th?
I can do it late, 5, you know,
5 o'clock?
Yeah.
So we're looking at 5 to 7
Yeah.
on June 4th?
Or
She-
Barb
Barbara
can't make it on the 4th. What about the 5th, June 5th?
June 5th not available. We've got Rotary,
June 5th, I'm here.
Paul Harris dinner.
I know, but the workshop would go till, 4:30 or something. But you're gone too then? Are you
I'm
back?
here on
Oh, you're
Tuesday.
back. You're back on June 5th? Maybe we could start it, is that a Tuesday you can do?
Oh, I'm in town, so I'll just show up.
On June 5th?
Yeah.
Are you thinking 3 o'clock, 3 to 5?
I'll just show up and I'll get most everything done. And at 5 o'clock, I'll go finish whatever there is to finish. I'll be fine. So a week from today?
Yeah.
Are we looking at a week from today?
Yeah, June 5th.
At 3?
Is that consensus?
3 PM, June 5th.
Is the intent to finish this process?
I hope so.
Meeting number 3 or 4?
Yeah, 4, I think. Hopefully we'll finish
Kathy,
it.
it's a 4?
I think it's 4.
Do we have any direction for the meeting? Or is there any sections we're gonna do, or?
I can't remember off the top of my head where we left off, but
You'll
sure
send
we're
it out.
going to finish and then go
We'll
back.
send,
and-
we'll send a memo out on that,
Yeah.
Okay.
what
Thank
we
you.
have left.
But I would love if everybody could go back and review the items that Barbara had put in there initially.
The
I'll send them out
preamble,
again.
the preamble.
Yeah, the preamble, and I think there was a mission and a vision statement in there, so we can go over what's left of the protocols and then go over those additions as well.
Yeah, there's also the city slogan, there's so many slogans going around.
Yeah, that needs to be portion of the protocol or not, or if that's more of a general plan. I don't know.
I mean, there's the general plan that's working in parallel, so I think
They
Juliana.
just, they're separate documents that are meant to serve a separate purpose. Protocols is supposed to direct council on how to act during meetings, not really how to.
And this would be at City Hall?
I'm sorry?
This meeting would be at City Hall, is that correct?
Correct.
3 to 5 on Tuesday, the 5th.
Correct?
Do it.
Okay. That's election day. We got to vote that day.
Election day.
And today is John F. Kennedy's birthday.
Oh, really? Huh. Happy birthday, John. Okay, done? We're good with
John
that?
Fitzgerald Kennedy.
Okay, let's then go to council reports on outside attendance, verbal report. Oh, gosh, okay. So I went to the quarterly division meeting of the Sacramento Valley Division of the League of California Cities in Grass Valley. We did a business meeting, and which is fairly standard, just what's left of the budget and where are we getting more money, and what are some of the legislative issues. And then we had a presentation by a gentleman representing the Office of Emergency Services who reviewed a lot of the statistics, none of which I wrote, frankly, of the fire year. And he basically, his underlying message was to make sure that your that your city staff has connected with the county OES people in advance of any fire or other disaster you get, and understand how it is they work, how they respond, how they work with any emergency response teams you have, how they work with your staff, how they use the ICS system, incident command system, that sort of thing. And after that, there was a fundraising for the PAC arm of the League of Cities, which is called City PAC, which I participated in to get to know people a bit better in advance of the working group discussion, or the Rural Cities Working Group discussion coming up. So that was that, and I, by the way, stayed at a friend's and incurred no costs other than lunch. I didn't charge mileage on that. Then the next meeting I attended was a regards to rural conference I attended. It was put on by the Rural Development Initiative the weekend before last. The theme was bridging urban and rural, which is exactly what we're hoping to do with the working group discussion at the league meeting in September. I came away with, there were several there was an excellent keynote by a futurist named Steve Brown, who outlined a lot of the things that are coming our way in terms of artificial intelligence, the use of drones, the robots, driverless cars, a number of things that that speak to the emerging workforce and workplace needs. And then there were a number of breakout sessions, all involving different aspects of rural communities. I'm sorry I did not bring my notes for you. I took extensive notes. There was one on community building. There was one on the role that foundations can play in doing other than grant writing or grant issuing. There was one on crowdfunding of specific projects, a number of very specific strategies being used in rural communities to help bring in revenue and engage citizens in the kind of work that needs to be done to help communities thrive. If any of you have any interest in any specifics, I'd be more than happy to share some of my notes with you. I went up there with Mayor Freeman from Wairika, since she and I are heading up this other presentation in September, and we shared our costs and shared a lot of our thoughts. She's looking to fund a community pool, and I'm looking for some help with funding our library and some other things. So that's that. Thank you. Any questions? Okay, future agenda items. Any suggestions?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to remove item I from future agenda items, as well as item M. It's my understanding that there are some other folks who have been identified as being interested in, or possibly interested in, applying for DEAC, and that would negate the need for my application. And the community enhancement tax issue is, I believe, dead for the next 2 years. Or at least is dead for the foreseeable future. So I would suggest that we have agreement to remove those two items from future agenda items. I would like to put something on a future agenda item sometime in the next 60 to 90 days, which would be discussion and possible action regarding annexation of the Orchard property.
Okay, let's take the first two first. Any objections to Tim's removal of the community enhancement tax and the Downtown Enhancement Advisory Committee application?
No.
No, okay. And enhancement tax, okay. The annexation, the Orchard annexation.
Discussion and possible action regarding,
Yeah,
yes.
I'm interested in that. So I think that should go on the agenda.
Okay, so we're adding then Orchard annexation to the 60 to 90 future agenda items.
Okay, so I just need some explanation of a few things. What is B, approval of resolution to consolidate election?
That's an annual resolution that's required by the county in order for us to be on the ballot with the
So the
remainder of the
technicality?
county. Yep.
Okay.
Good
Easy.
question.
Yep.
And that's something that can probably be on the consent agenda.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the change order for the library, What's the big deal there with the change?
Well, when we started to look at the environmental document, and look at funding sources, USDA has a very attractive funding source. It's federal funds. It triggers the requirement for NEPA in addition to CEQA.
Okay.
That's the purpose of the change. It's more cost effective to do it all at one time.
And so there'll be somewhat of an increase in the overall contract
Correct.
price. Would you have any idea how much?
No,
Not
I
yet?
don't have the bid as yet.
It seems like we'll need a couple budget agenda items. So we'll present our fiscal year 18-19. I think she's going to need 2 meetings for that.
Certainly.
Typically, the draft budget would be considered, and I think Muriel plans to have the draft budget considered at the June 11th meeting, and then have the budget actually adopted at the second meeting in June, which would be the 25th.
So should we add that to the
Sure,
future
yeah,
agenda?
that's a good point. That's given, but yes, good point.
So you know that
Right.
she have to deal
Right,
with that.
right.
So
I'd like to
noted.
add an item to the agenda items. I've talked a while with Bruce about town hall style meetings. We've talked some about doing a town hall kind of meeting on near the 1-year anniversary of the utility rate hike. Give people information about what we've collected, where the money will go, answer their questions, that sort of thing. Number 2, we've talked, Bruce and I have talked a little bit about doing something around a town hall kind of meeting around the landing. What has been decided in the past, what kinds of things we might entertain, what happens if we get a proposal, perhaps even a short field trip out there so people can see it. But something in advance of getting a proposal to which we need to react. That would be a second possible workshop topic. I'm looking at an item here that would address possible town hall meetings. And the third one just came up tonight, just as an example, is, and I'm not specifying these right now. What I want to do is have an item that talks about, do we want to have town hall meetings, and for what specific reasons? We haven't had any. We had a mutual planning commission and council meeting with the public that were invited in this building here. That was, I thought, quite successful. But other than that, I don't think we've had any, and what I'm looking for is an opportunity for some more back and forth. People really get a chance sitting around a table to look at what's been presented and learn a little bit more and give us some comment, perhaps in written form, I'm not sure, I don't know, but something other than what they're given in a 3-minute period of time here.
Well, certainly, I would support a charrette for the landing. City manager suggested doing that, and I'd certainly be supportive of a town hall meeting with a charrette for that, looking at, as you say, the various proposals that we've had over the years and getting current proposals.
And I would be in support of the rate hike town hall meeting to show what positive effect that
Right.
with respect to cash flow and what the money's being used for. I think that would reassure people a lot.
So is there are you in agreement that we put an agenda item here to discuss the topics for town hall meetings to occur in the next 6 months?
Why don't we, it sounds to me like you have support from council members to put 2 specific town hall meetings on the future. So I think rather than having an agenda item to simply discuss town hall meetings, why not go ahead and work on trying to get a couple of town hall meetings scheduled?
We can come back to you with a specific date. At this point, I'm not prepared to give a specific date, time and date for meeting.
Oh, yeah,
Certainly supportive of a charrette or a town hall meeting. I think getting the public's opinion out, getting feedback is really quite critical.
yeah, and I think that's up to the staff to figure out what timing works, or staff and the mayor to figure out what timing works.
The only, that's fine, I'm happy with that. Those were my ideas of priorities. Others of you may have other ideas for priorities. So, we can try these first of all. I mean, we can put these on the agenda and we can try them out. And then if you like the outcome, we can suggest it on a more ongoing basis and a process to help us decide what the priorities are for the topics.
I mean, I did like Ken Ryan's suggestion of taking a good look at the crosswalks and the various dangerous locations and getting some input from the community on how safe they feel, whether they're walking or biking, or on a motorcycle even. I mean, I've come into some close calls myself, only because the pedestrians just aren't that visible sometimes when you're driving, like, I'm kind of scared, but.
Yeah. So, okay, so we've got it. We have town hall, you're gonna schedule town hall. Or what are you gonna, you'll come back with an agenda item that talks about,
For both rate heights and for the landing.
and for
We'll
the
do
landing,
two separate meetings.
and a process to help us identify what what
Town
other
hall.
priorities there are for town halls. How's that? Does that accommodate your interest in the crossings, the pedestrian safety, the traffic?
I'm just reiterating what one of the citizens said.
I heard support for 2 specific town halls.
I'm sorry?
I heard support for 2 specific town
So
halls.
did I, and I'm saying, yes, and we could talk at that point, we could identify as part of that agenda item, potential other priority topics.
I thought you were asking staff to agendize something for future town halls, and I didn't hear anything about that, but the mayor and the city manager, mayor or city manager, without any input from the other council members, can put anything they want on the agenda.
I know, I understand, yeah, I like to make my thinking transparent, so, and encourage the rest of you to have ideas. If you have ideas about the town hall subject and priority topics, bring them up with.
So do you want to head towards a twice yearly, town hall meeting, or quarterly town hall meetings where we bring in the public and we really hash things
I'd
out?
love to move that direction,
Well, there you go.
yeah. That's when we
I
could
think
start
Barbara's
this way.
interested in
So
that, and I might be too.
let's schedule town hall meetings when we have something specific
To deal with,
to talk about,
I agree.
rather than a town hall meeting where you all just sit around and talk.
No, of
Let's
course,
have a clear, fine subject. And each town hall do a single subject, would be my recommendation.
And
okay,
you probably want to talk about the format that you want to use for town hall as well.
right.
There's various formats. You might want to think about, is it going to be a debate, or is it going to be presentation, or how much Q&A?
I would rent more as a charrette to get public input,
Okay.
presentations, and then input, not a debate.
Not a debate.
No.
Okay.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, let's move to a 10. Okay, yes, let's adjourn.